Well, the Death Stranding 2 reviews are in, and they are soaring. It's actually higher than Death Stranding 1, higher than many people expected. I was asked in my Discord last night to make a guess at where it would land, and I said a 90. I think Kojima did enough this time to secure that score, which is really, really difficult to hold on to. It only takes a couple of outlets to lower that score. So we're going to be taking a look at all of the reviews that I think are representative of a spectrum of scores. We're not going to look at literally 94 reviews, right? We're going to look at the ones that we have like 100, a 95, a 90, an 80. And then we do have the ones that are landing lower in like the 70 and the 60 range. Sometimes those 60s aren't quite as low as you might think because they're using a 5-point system, so 3 out of 5 stars translates into a 60 in the aggregate tool, but they might not necessarily think it's a 60%. They think that a 3 out of 5 is like a perfectly fine game with flaws. Currently, we're just going to show you right here. It stands at a 90 on Metacritic with 94 reviews. We'll be refreshing this throughout the day. And on OpenCritic, it is in second place behind Expedition 33. This will be the big debate between these two titles, specifically which one will take home the Game of the Year crown. And I'm going to maybe put together a video this week about that. Obviously, I can't say much about Death Stranding 2 even after a week of playing it because it sounds like such an enormous game, but I'm going to do my best to enter this dialogue. In particular, I want to talk about Expedition 33 and why I do believe it will win Game of the Year. I did roll credits on this recently. I'm about 3/4 of the way through Skill Up's video on this game. I highly encourage you to check that out, and that's really sort of making me want to make a video about this in particular. But today's all about Death Stranding 2, so we are going to be looking at those scores and where it's landing and why it has secured that 90 on Metacritic, which again is pretty impressive. I thought, Kojima can be pretty divisive. He did say before the game came out that in some of their earlier screenings, people were too happy. They were enjoying it too much, and he made changes to the story, mainly because he's like, if you're not upsetting anybody, if you're not doing anything with the story that is causing, anger, frustration, sadness, disappointment, you're probably being a little too safe. So we're going to kind of peruse the reviews today and see where they land. Now, if you're watching this later and you like this kind of content, like a quick rundown, you like the live talk shows, make sure and hit subscribe and the bell button. I'm a Safe for Work broadcaster. I do this Monday through Friday. We also do uploads. I also stream on Purple, so we're in the various different places. If you're on Purple, you can support with a sub and you'll never see ads. If you're watching on YouTube, the biggest way to support what we do is to be here every day. So make sure subscribe button, bell button, and do the like button right now. Try to give us a strong start. The last couple times we've done rundowns with reviews like this, they haven't done that well, and they used to do really well for us. And I think it's a great way to give you kind of a snapshot of a video game. And also, if you want to support directly and be involved in all the extra content here, click join and pick Member Plus. You'll be a part of Morning Coffee, and you'll also be a part of the green room at the end of every day. So we're going to jump in and we're going to go in order of strongest to weakest, okay? So I'm just going to be kind of pulling up reviews that from Metacritic, and Deserto gave it basically 5 stars. This is registering as a 100%. So I think it's fair to read the one that's registering as 100% because it's 5 out of 5, but also read the one that's registering as a 60% because it's 3 out of 5, giving you sort of the spectrum of where this game is landing. Now, they're saying throughout the 50-plus hour story, it's an endlessly replayable game. So even if you don't replay it, that is a significant amount of potential playtime that you can get from this game with over 50-plus hours. Now, what I like to do, instead of reading every single tidbit of every single review, I don't like to sort of cannibalize the work of other people like that if you want to go see what Deserto has to say, in its entirety, then go check it out. But I'm going to jump down here and give you guys their verdict and give you guys while they argue it, because then you can sort of be motivated to go read the entire reviews from these various outlets. A lot of these outlets also put out video reviews if you want to check those out. So again, they give it a 5. They give it an outstanding verdict. And they say, in every sense of the word, the follow-up is an improvement over the original. In many ways, it honestly makes the first Death Stranding come across as a tech demo, a mere proof of concept with how it evolves the formula and polishes every possible facet. Here we get Kojima's real vision executed seemingly without compromise, and it is utterly tremendous. Now, obviously, what they're saying here, they're saying this one's so good that it makes the first game seem like a tech demo. They're not saying the first game is a tech demo. They're not saying that, like, Kojima was constrained or anything, because the first game is quite, I think, a triumph of creativity, uniqueness, innovative systems, at a time where, people are constantly saying every game is the same, every game is, cliche or stereotypical, or, all the studios are just playing it safe. I thought Kojima took a big risk with Death Stranding 1, and I thought it was an exceptional game, and I started with it, and so I came back to it later, and, was able to kind of get through that opening. Also, lowering the difficulty is a big help in that. Like, if you're not wanting to have sort of the pain of failure, flat tire, putting you some of the flat tires of the early gameplay loops, that also is significantly helpful. So again, y'all watching on YouTube, give me your likes. Let's get that first 100 likes. We are doing a review rundown right now of Death Stranding 2, and we're taking a look in order of greatest to least. This one landed at a 95 from PlayStation Universe, and so the significant review here. Again, I don't want to cannibalize their entire review. Also, it tends to belabor the point. We're just trying to give you guys a quick snapshot, so when you watch this later, you're getting the information about it as quickly as possible. So they give it a 9.5. I do think 10-point scales work a little bit better with the aggregate tools that are out there, like OpenCritic and Metacritic. I think that's better. I understand why people use 5-point systems. I get you want to do your own thing. But unfortunately, it leads to some oddities when you get translated into the tools. 10-point and 100-point systems, I think, work a little bit better, and they leave room for nuance. I think a little bit more room for nuance. You could give it like a 9.2 or a 9.7, things like that. So they say that it is a triumph in what it sets out to achieve. This isn't a game interested in converting willing consumers into fans. It's a game that takes bold steps in order to succeed what came before it. If you needed proof that Hideo Kojima is still the titan of the industry that he is hailed as, this game is that proof. I was left truly speechless by the end, and I have a feeling that many others will too. I think this was a valid concern when we started hearing that some of it was had been maybe softened up a bit. That it's not a game that's interested in converting willing consumers into fans. Like, I think there was a concern on the other side of that you might be trying to convert people who are not fans or not willing consumers into fans. Like, he indicated that some of the traversal and stuff in the early game is a little bit more approachable, because I don't necessarily think they wanted. They're likely looked at reports, and I was probably a data point on those reports, just those early quits that people gave the game, right before you're about to turn the corner. A lot of people did that. A lot of people were playing Death Stranding 1, and they were like me, they bailed right before things were about to get really, really good, and right before things were about to turn. And it's unfortunate, because it is such a brilliant game. It is such a fun and enjoyable game, and you can't know that if you get to that 2 to 3 hour mark and you're like, this is too weird, this is too slow, I'm out. So him softening that up, I think it was a valid concern for people to say, well, are we going to be playing a game that's been sort of neutered of what made it so good first time around? And again, y'all, as you're piling in on YouTube, man, smash that like button. So we've got Inverse, and they gave it a 9 out of 10. So this is not a 95. This is not a 9.5. This is just a straight 9. So we're kind of working our way down the scoring spectrum from a 100 to a 9.5 to a 10. So they conclude that Death Stranding is another anomaly in the modern gaming landscape. It's got a weird premise, a weird visual identity, and even weirder ideas for what a $70 game should be. And while the sequel largely iterates on the first game's ideas to create something broader, it thankfully stays true to what made the original distinct. Sure, I wish Death Stranding 2 showed more than it tells. Kojima could benefit from emulating how concisely many of his director friends in Hollywood deliver their own stories, or how to write natural dialogue more consistently. But the overall vision of Death Stranding 2 is so bold and uncompromising that it brute forces its way through these shortcomings. Death Stranding 2 on the beach may not be for everyone, but if it's for you, it's one of the most enjoyable games of 2025, a must-see follow-up that is more cohesive, refined, and fully developed than the first. I mean, this is not surprising that people feel this way, that he doesn't do things in a concise way, and the dialogue's not always all that natural. A lot of times the dialogue can feel very wooden. Some of that's because I think he's very literal in like the way he names people sometimes, and then the way they interact ends up feeling wooden as a result of that. Like when someone's name is like Die Hardman, it's like, it's like when their names don't seem natural, it makes dialogue around them unnatural, which I think is perfectly fine. I think it's a stylistic thing. It's sort of like his stamp on the game. It could be language barrier as well. That is something to consider. English not being his native language, we might get more wooden translations because the body of work that goes into a game like this, there is so much dialogue, there is so much interchange between the characters. You might not be able to get such good, one-to-one translation work so that it's sort of like honoring what he was going for. Guys, as you're piling in the stream, make sure you're hitting that like button. We should easily have our first 100 likes. We're basically still in the first 10 minutes of the stream. Let's nail that like count today. That really does help us out. Okay, so Games Radar gave it an 80, so we're going to drop now out of the 90s. So it does, let's double check back here. It does currently have, that's never worked, by the way, just all these websites, just so you know, a pop-up asking for my email. The conversion rate on those has to be atrocious. So still holding on to a 90 on Metacritic, and still holding second place overall on OpenCritic, underneath the triumph that is Expedition 33 at a 92. Death Stranding currently sitting at a 91. The reason they were tied at 92 a little while ago and Death Stranding 2 was so lower is it did not have near the amount of reviews as Expedition 33. Conversion rate's not 0, so it ain't. I guess it works. Yeah, I suppose if it's not 0, right? Every 1,000 people that see that stupid CAPTCHA, they get like one email, and they'll probably count that as a win. Okay, so they gave it an 80, and they reviewed it on the PS5 Pro. So if you want a PS5 Pro review, Games Radar has one. Okay, so he doesn't do like necessarily a concluding thought here. We'll still just read the end. Let's see. There may be less tension, but there's still a sense that we are chipping in to build something better together. Hang on. The greater emphasis on action and world building might move Death Stranding 2 away from the hiking focus I loved about the original, but as a Metal Gear Solid fan, this is a thrilling mix that helps this sequel stand apart rather than just reheating the same thing. This is something that I think is going to be really important when we read some of the reviews that are not happy with the emphasis on the combat and the action. I've already seen a couple of people that took issue with that. I think this is really well stated here, though, that like changing this a bit, moving away from everything being about that hiking focus, that's still a huge element of the game. Like we've seen and heard enough to know that it's still a huge element of the game. But like, it's going to help it stand apart. And as I say, rather than just reheating the same thing, like giving you a new traversal Death Stranding game in a different location would have been, I think, in a lot of people's minds, like as this person's saying, a reheat. So I think this is well stated. And again, I think we need to remember that later when we're reading some people. And not everybody's going to agree, and that's totally fine. I'm just saying there's different perspectives on this, and this perspective is one that I'm more aligned with. I really liked Death Stranding 1. I don't need Death Stranding 1.5. I don't need it to feel like DLC, and it sounds like he achieved that. And in large part, he achieved that by not, emphasizing the exact same things in the exact same ways. Ultimately, I really love how world building has been expanded here, making Sam's adventure feel a lot more lively thanks to the Drawbridge crew. That's what'll carry forward from this one, while wishing I had a real-life Dolman to join me on my weekly shop. Hideo Kojima compared his approach to the sequel as going from Alien to Aliens, the same story in a different genre. I can feel that when I play it, but it does have me wondering. As the credits roll, after a series of lengthy ending cutscenes that are so bizarre you wouldn't believe me if I did spoil them, what will be the Alien 3 of Death Stranding? Or what will it look like? Yeah, I like this. We know Kojima's a big film fan, so the fact that he's saying like it's kind of, he's comparing it. I didn't even see this interview. Death Stranding 2 is Hideo Kojima's answer to James Cameron's Alien sequel. We've introduced battles to give this a new dimension. So I actually think that's a really, really good comparison, like going from Alien to Aliens, right? Alien is, the first one is a lot more like thriller, horror, and it's got more of that tension, very little action. You barely ever see the alien. It brings in some of the Hitchcockian influence of what that man brought to television and film. And then in Aliens, it is very much an action flick. You see lots and lots of aliens, and there's guns, and there's Marines, and there's machismo, right? And then you have this big face-off at the end. It's more of a classic action action film. So I think this is a great comparison here, to go from Death Stranding 1 being like almost like Alien to Aliens, like almost like you're going to be in a different genre a little bit, which again is understandable. This person liked it. They didn't want just a reheat of the same thing, but this is also where there's going to be people that may jump ship and decide that Kojima really maybe abandoned what made the first game so great. So this is going to be a lower review as well. I believe this is a 75. This is from GameSpot. No, wait. This one's actually going to be a 3 out of 5 stars. So this is a 7. Okay. So now we have ourselves a 70. And we've gotten in pretty lengthy debates about the use of good. Generally speaking, when I go to get a game from a storefront, or I check its Metacritic or I check its Steam score, if it has a 70%, I would never describe that game as good. So we've had this debate up one side, down the other. We don't need to have that debate again today. I believe this is such an odd use, being that everywhere else you see this score, you would not say that's good. You go to Steam and see a 70%. If you saw a 3.5 on PlayStation or a 3.5 on Xbox, if you saw a 3.5 on Amazon, I think that's, I don't think anybody's like, oh, that's good. But in the review circuit, we're calling this good. The other reason that I think this is problematic is that, within the actual aggregates and the tools that are available, everything changes as soon as it's a 70. Like literally the color changes, the feel and the vibe changes of the score. And then when you scroll all the way up here to get the total, right, you have your positives at green and you have your mixed at yellow. So you land in a mix, you land in a yellow. Now, Metacritic's not the determiner of all things. It's just in general, I think that this is an odd use of the word, given how everywhere else this score shows up. Like everywhere else this score shows up. If you went to Rotten Tomatoes and saw a movie with a 70, you wouldn't be like, that's probably a good movie. I don't know why we act like in this instance and in this instance alone it's fine. I think it's confusing. So the good and the bad. The good, revisiting the world of Death Stranding is exciting. Photorealistic visuals are stunning, even on a base PS5 model. Core gameplay is still unique. I think it is important to note that the base PS5 model is what was used at the preview event, where people were able to play like over 40 hours. So I think it's important to note that. And again, I can't wait to play this on my Pro tomorrow. I'm going to be playing this on the Pro tomorrow for you guys. If you don't want spoilers, that's understandable. Try and get the game booted up and get an hour or two ahead of me. I usually only play games on launch date for about an hour. That's probably going to be difficult with Death Stranding 2, right? We're not even going to get through the opening scenes with only an hour. Okay, so the bad. So there you can see here, their bad list is more than their good list. Again, calling into question this entire thing that I just talked about. This breakdown doesn't look like a good game to me. Again, this is odd. This is an odd way to review a game. Like it looks like you didn't like it as much as you liked it, right? You have more grief or more beef than praise. Repetitive story beats that are too close to the first game. Focus on weapons and spectacle detracts from uniqueness. Friction is lost, rendering some challenges superficial. Yeah, they did say some of the friction was going to be lowered in this. We knew that. Questionable tropes around women. Oh boy. Here we go. Boss fights are unimaginative. Well, chat, we got to go read now, right? Oh, man. It's freaking 10 in the morning, and you're going to make me read. Oh, brother, where do you think it is? Let's just go all the way to the top. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Okay. This obsession with honoring past legacy also carries the baggage of some of the series' worst tropes, particularly around the portrayal of women, which the first game was also guilty of. I'm sorry, what? What the fuck are you talking about? While I can't speak with authority about some of the sequel's plot lines, including one involving a phenomenon around childbirth, some scenes cause an exhausting deja vu. There's an unskippable photography minigame featuring 3 women posing in front of the camera, as well as a central character who often takes her shoes off as crew members make a running commentary about this habit. My brain hurts already. The camera pans during cutscenes aren't as excessive as, say, the treatment around Quiet and Metal Gear Solid, but it all feels unnecessary, and since you're witnessing photorealistic depictions of real-life actors, it can slip into being a bit weird. Okay, so... Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've not played the game, and I already know why she takes her shoes off, because I'm not media illiterate. Like, if you watch the one trailer with Elle Fanning, it's amazing, it's cinematic, it's awesome, and she fights. She takes her shoes off because she's interacting with the stuff that she uses for power. Like, what the frick? Like, this is absolutely not at all any kind of like a gooner foot fetish thing. It's quite literally a part of the lore around the character and how she interacts with the tar. Like, what the actual F? It comes into her body. Like, I've not even played the dadgum game yet, and I know that. That's literally in the trailer. That's not spoilers. That's in a video that was published like a week ago. Jiminy Christmas. And listen, I don't know what he's talking about. I have no idea. What on earth would you have issue with portrayal of women in the first game? Every woman that you encounter is strong, capable, helpful, not at all sexualized. And he cast some of the most gorgeous women you could cast in his game, and he never focused on that. He never made that a part of their character, ever. The only time you see one of them scantily clad, it is a significant portion of the story in Death Stranding 1. It's a significant portion of the story. It's very important that she's basically in like a tank top and her underwear. Like, it's not sexualized, it's not creepy, it's incredibly important, and I'm not even going to spoil it. So this idea that like the portrayal of women was somehow problematic in the first game, this is idiotic. This is bankrupt. There is no truth to this at all. There's nothing in the first game that you could say is an issue. Every character is portrayed in a completely fine way. And then this is just so vague. This right here, this is just so vague. So to come all the way down here and to say questionable tropes around women, you didn't establish any tropes. You seemingly didn't understand why Elle Fanning's character takes her frickin' shoes off. And even in the scene where Elle Fanning's in like a pretty dress, she has like shorts on underneath. She literally has shorts on underneath, so like you can't do any like the weirdo gooning that dudes do when they like freeze frame stuff. Like, I don't get this at all. And the posing in front of the camera thing, I don't feel like that's a trope around women. I feel like that's, a bit of a reflection of society in general, that we take lots of selfies, and I don't think the ability to have a mini game where you're taking pictures, I don't believe that's a questionable portrayal of women. I think this is a silly thing to mention and include in your review. So yeah, that's all we need to say about that. Now we got this is a bad one. Between tamed radicalism, oh boy, and creative recycling, the sequel to Death Stranding questions less than it reassures. Now, all right, now hang on a minute. Okay, so, all right, buckle up, everybody. Put your seatbelts on. Okay, so, all right, this right here is being translated from French, so we could be getting lost here, okay? We could be getting lost here, so we don't need to overbake this, but I don't know what tamed radicalism is. All the other IGN outlets had high praise for the game. From what I saw, they all seem to have pretty good scores. So IGN, France doesn't seem to like it. Now, we're not going to say this has anything to do with Expedition 33 being the front runner and being French. We're not gonna mention that and say there could be a bias here. We're not gonna do that at all. We're just gonna continue and we're gonna press on and see what their issues were with the game. Let's just scroll down. I'm obviously being a little bit silly. Why is my browser being so idiotic? Just let me click and drag here. Okay, here's their verdict. Okay, here's their verdict. Death Stranding on the Beach embodies both the affirmation of artistic freedom and the renunciation of what made its predecessor radical. Oh, that's what they mean by tamed radicalism. Now I understand. Okay, that makes perfectly good sense. So we did get a good translation there. So they're saying that the first game was radical and this game is tamed radicalism. Okay, and now I understand what they're saying. In an age where people will inject political platitudes into their game reviews, I was like, I don't know what the frick we're about to read, okay? Sublime in form, ambitious in its purpose, it nevertheless betrays the heart of its gameplay, now emptied of all tension, all risk, all solitude. I do have some people to thank. Let me take a brief break here as we read this. I need to thank some people. I am so sorry for being slow on this. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of tension since they feel there isn't any. Here's your tension. We're not gonna read that just yet. We're gonna pull up the goal and we're gonna thank some people. So Primal Queef is here, and Han shot first, and so did you. Thank you so much for changing your name to that. So now I have to say that all of the time. That takes us to 108, but then we're gonna go to 109. Rissick with 45 months in a VIP, and Lancelot's gonna take us to 10 members. On the week, and says, I've been a member long enough to drink. You've been a member long enough to drink. Thank you so much. So let me go ahead and go to the battle between Team Red and Team Purple and bump the line to 6. But then we do have CJ over here. CJ over here says, again, I do this under protest. YouTube is a superior platform. Thank you so much, CJ, for 30 months on Team Purple. There you go. We haven't hit a milestone yet this morning, so if you guys want to make me gift members to your platform, every 25 we do that. And this week, the stretch goal will be to make Madam play Death Stranding on Friday night, which will be hilarious. That will be a good time. She doesn't really play games like this. And thank you, Big Evil, for 29 months of members on YouTube. As someone who didn't play the first game, will I understand what's going on in the second one? Yeah, watch a story so far and you'll be good. It's a fairly easy story to understand. Just watch a story so far. Okay, back to this. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, go crazy on the like count, okay? Get us to 200 likes. A nice strong turnout for a review roundup, which the last couple times we've done these, it hasn't been as good. So it's good to see a lot of you here. The gameplay, once harsh but fascinating, is here flattened, oversimplified, betrayed by an overabundance of facilitating tools that appear too quickly and render any traversal trivial. Okay. Thank you, Mike on a mic, for gifting a member. There it is. And that's going to bump the line. That's going to bump YouTube's count to 7. It's 7-5 in the battle. It is 7-5 in the battle. Let's get going. And then now it's going to be 13. Dryad San with 3 months says, good job. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you guys are enjoying this breakdown, if you appreciate this kind of content, putting it all in one place for you, do me a favor and hit the like button and consider becoming a member. If you do a membership on YouTube, pick Member Plus. If you're watching on Purple, you can use your primes. And, okay, there's a couple issues that I have with this, okay? Okay, so this is stupid. No, I'm just kidding. So there's a couple of problems I have with this. Number one, I'm curious how much of this is because you're just super familiar with the first game. Right? Was he going to be like? Let's just think about it from this perspective. Was Kojima going to be able to contextually make things difficult for you again? Right? You understand so much already. So would he have been able to like increase that tension, increase that difficulty without making the game extremely unenjoyable for most folks? Right? What difficulty are you playing on? Yeah, that's the other question is, what difficulty did they play it on? Let's actually search their, okay. Let's see if they say what difficulty they set it to. Having experienced the steep difficulty of Death Stranding, I started my game on hardcore mode. And with the exception of a few boss fights, the game was a real walk in the park from start to finish. Listen, we're going to have other people weigh in on this and see if we can get some corroboration, because this, I feel like we've heard these sorts of I'm God tier gamer stuff before. When someone says they played it on hardcore and it was a walk in the park, my skepticism gets a little bit peaked here. And what Eugene is saying is another thing I was just getting ready to say. You cannot take away from the player and not make it feel like a little bit of a robbery has taken place. Like, you've built up a lot of tools, you built up a lot of abilities, and Kojima's not going to be like, surprise, you lost all your stuff, right? Or you don't know how to do anything. So there's elements here of like, you understand the systems. They don't want to just arbitrarily make the game really stupid difficult. It's been stated it's an easy platinum trophy. I mean, that doesn't determine to me whether or not a game is difficult or not. A platinum trophy being easier or more difficult to get can sometimes just come down to, are there really weird, challenging trophies, or are the trophies straightforward? That doesn't necessarily reflect the difficulty of the game. Does that make sense? You can have a really difficult game that doesn't go crazy with the trophies. Like, I'm just saying as an example. I don't know if this is true. Like, if, let's just say Sekiro was an easy platinum, that might be referring to trophy count and the persnicketyness of the trophies, not necessarily the difficulty of the game. And again, I actually think that Kojima went the right route here. I think he would have gone in the other direction and was like, well, I really want to revisit that tension and that friction one more time. The only way you do that is by stripping the player down, taking a lot of stuff away from the player that they earned in the first game, and you're going to have to subvert expectations. You're going to have to basically make new, unfamiliar systems or new methods of traversal that are frustrating because you're already familiar with the game. That familiarity is going to make it very easy for you in those early stages to bypass friction and to bypass rough edges. Like, a new player might not agree with this. Does that make sense? A newer, brand new, out-of-the-box player who skipped DS1 may play Death Stranding 2 and not agree with what this person is saying. So they're allowed to think this from their own subjective opinion. That's totally fine. I just read this with a little bit of skepticism. I'm like, well, your familiarity with the game, you cranked it to hardcore and said it was a walk in the park. You might not be demonstrative of the market. Like, the average gamer is not going to think that this is helpful information, because the average gamer is not going to think that hardcore is a walk in the park. Does that make sense? The game's main tools are based around printing from blueprints contained within a worldwide network. How do you remove those? Without a storyline of the network being damaged or reset or something, Eugene, and I don't think people would have liked that. Death Stranding 2 takes place 11 months after Death Stranding 1. You spend all of Death Stranding 1 building up amenities and systems to make traversal easier. You start with no connections. You end with all of USA connecting. Right. And the only way to reintroduce friction and tension and frustration would be to essentially undo all that you did in Death Stranding 1, which likely would have gotten more complaints than praise. So I actually don't think this is concerning. This is probably a very specific type of player who really wanted the game to beat the tar out of them again and make it tough and make it arduous. If that's what you were looking for from Death Stranding 2, then obviously this review is helpful to you, because you're going to be like, oh, it's actually not that difficult. It's easier, compared to previous. Again, whenever somebody tells me they turned the game's difficulty all the way up and it was still easy, my eyebrows kind of go up. I'm like, sure. Like, I'm always a little skeptical of that. I know people are built different. I know there are people that do like a no-hit run of every Dark Souls and every FromSoft game in a row, right? And they'll literally go from, Demon Souls all the way to the end of Elden Ring, and they'll never get hit. I don't know how they do it. There are people that are built different. So this could be one of those players out here that's just built different, and difficulty doesn't land on them the same way. I actually think that makes their opinion on it a little bit less potent. If you're one of those players when games just don't hit you the same way, you're like, yeah, I put it on hardcore and it was easy. well, then the average player is just not going to vibe with what you're saying because most of us aren't built that way. Like, I don't think I've ever put a game on its hardest difficulty and thought, well, this is easy. So, you have eyebrows under your gloves? I had no idea. I don't even know. I'm not getting that joke. Kojima, once a pioneer, thus seems to give in to expectations of accessibility and locks himself in a museum of his own obsessions, breaking the fourth wall, deconstructing gameplay, heavy nods to Metal Gear, but without ever achieving the subversion or transgression that were their initial strength. Yeah, I mean, this is, we're getting a little harsh here. We're getting a little harsh. I don't feel like we're talking about the game anymore. Locking himself in a museum of his own obsessions, which they're saying he's obsessed with breaking the fourth wall, deconstructing gameplay, and heavy nods to Metal Gear. We're getting a little harsh. Which, that's fine. That's fine. You can be harsh in your criticisms. That's okay. This does seem a little bit about Kojima and less about the game. So I guess that's fine. The narrative, always cryptic and strange, struggles to recreate the emotion of Sam and Lou's father-child bond, despite some inspired bursts of writing, notably in the meta, questioning around the excessive connection. Should we have connected? So one of the reasons I'm also not reading these reviews is I don't want to give you guys any accidental spoilers. So, this single sentence, while it proves the author's intention, is not quite enough to save a game that, over the course of its hours, gives the impression of seeing a genius characterize himself. Holy mackerel. Like I said, this is getting pretty critical of him. It is no longer a question of reinventing, but of replaying, almost mechanically, yesterday's discoveries. Yeah, but we've read other reviews that argue that he didn't do this. So this is going to be a little bit more in that subjective realm where it sounds like you wanted him to repeat stuff up here, right? You wanted him to repeat the idea of like friction and difficulty and not make things more accessible. But then down here, it seems like you're upset that you're replaying certain things, yesterday's discoveries. And while the gesture can still impress at times, it also leaves a bitter taste. That of a brilliant creator who, rather than embracing the unknown, is now content to converse with his ghosts. Yeah, see, again, I feel like we're talking about Kojima here. I don't feel like we're talking about the game. This is an odd trajectory to take the review at the very end here. It's becoming all about him. Hideo Kojima has never been a docile creator, and Death Stranding 2 paradoxically seems to embody both the confirmation of his artistic independence and the betrayal of what made his founding work so strong. In this, a rating of 6 out of 10 seems the only fair way to honor what remains while mourning what has been lost. Yeah, I would say that in the realm of bad reviews, like giving a game a bad score, 6 out of 10 is not very good. This one seems to be a teeny bit fixated on Kojima as well as like what they thought the game should do, rather than judging the game like sort of against its own merits and saying, did it achieve these aims in a good way? Like, was the story well done? Writing, soundtrack, gameplay, content loop, the world, the performance. This feels very almost ethereal, like we're talking about a concept and an ideal that you thought he should have aspired to, and because he didn't aspire to that, you're kind of lowering the score quite a bit. So I don't think the verdict here to me sounds a little bit too fixated on Kojima, and it doesn't seem to be all that concerned with like the game itself, which is fine. IGN's other outlets seemingly really enjoyed it. If we go here, let's refresh and see if it's holding on to its 90. Metacritic being a little bit slow today when I go to do a refresh. Guys, make sure you're smashing the like button on Team YouTube. Make sure you guys are doing that. Let me refresh this. Still holding on to a 91 on OpenCritic, so it's in second place there. Let's come back over here. Okay, so it's holding on to 90 on OpenCritic as well, or not as well, but it's still holding on to its 90, I should say. Yeah, IGN Brazil gave it a 100. Let's just do this. So here, let's go to all the IGNs. IGN Brazil, 100. IGN Spain gave it a 100. IGN, I'm not sure where this is. You guys might help me out with this location. 92. IGN Adria 90. Yeah, so IGN France didn't like it, and it seemed like a little bit more of a almost like a higher zoomed out view of like the game, what it should have attempted to do. Oh, that's Belgium. Thank you. What it should have attempted to do from the perspective of almost critiquing Kojima. It's like you're critiquing him instead of like the game itself. Oh, that's the 3 Dutch countries. Okay. So, I actually think the score is great. I think a 90. I was asked in the Discord last night, where do you think it'll land? I said 90. I said, I personally thought from what we had seen, I was like, I think he's going to be able to hold on to that. I think it's a very difficult score to hold on to. A couple of reviews could come in later today and pull it out of the 90s. It really could. Yeah, I think it could. But I said it. I think it lands on a 90. And we'll see if it manages to hold on to it. Now, I don't think it's going to be able to overtake Expedition 33. I've got a video I'm kind of cooking up in my mind. A new game for your consideration. Repo, but with chickens. Chicken Express. Okay. I still think I've got a video kind of cooking in my brain about why I think Expedition 33 is basically unbeatable at this point. And I'm going to argue how there's other commentary that's playing a role there, and I want to give some analysis of that. I think it's a very, very, and I rolled credits on it very recently, so it's fresh in my mind. And Super Googly with the super chat says, I generally gives 10 out of 10 to trash games that look bad. Tears of the Kingdom, for example. Shut the frick up, Googly. Expedition 33 doesn't belong there. I don't know how you could possibly argue that. I really, truly don't. I mean, the levels of excellence that game achieves is sort of like universally praised. Expedition 33 will never be better than a Kojima game, not in my universe. That's an a priori commitment to a conclusion that makes me not care much about your conclusion. Like, you haven't even played Death Stranding 2. Like, how could you conclude that? You know what I mean? Like, what if you don't like it? You might not like Kojima's game. You might not like how he approached some of the things that were talked about in the reviews today. You know what I mean? I don't know. I liked Death Stranding 1. You're not saying Death Stranding 2? Then I don't understand what we're saying then. Oh, you were messing. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, how could you possibly know that? It's not revolutionary. Many JRPGs have done the same things for many years. Just don't have the reviews, fanfare. I mean, I think what you're saying is woefully reductionist and ignorant of why Expedition 33 is receiving the praise that it's receiving. It's not receiving the praise that it's receiving because, like, it's revolutionary within JRPGs. It's being praised at virtually every level of what it created. Story, art style, the mechanics, the voice acting, the soundtrack. Every nook and cranny of that game, for the most part, with the exception of, like, the cutscenes being a bit choppy and the lip sync not being great, which again probably comes back to native language, native speaking, native recordings, is possibly why that happened. To say that all these other games have done the same thing, they just didn't have the review fanfare. You mean like how ReFantazio was at like every single list last year? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, Metaphor ReFantazio was on like every single list of top votes, top categories last year. Like, we're not in some kind of like new territory where Expedition 33 is being praised while others have been ignored. Like, what are you even saying? Persona's commonly in runnings for nominations historically when I've watched these show award shows. You know what I mean? I don't feel like Expedition 33 is being given some kind of unfair treatment and, these other games have been passed over. ReFantazio is not as good as Expedition 3 and it got high praise. That's what I mean. Like, I don't think this is like some kind of weird media darling exception people are making where like other JRPGs have been ignored. Listen, Death Stranding 2 has definitely locked in, I would say, based on the scores, it's probably going to land in 5 categories minimum. Direction, art direction, game of the year, probably a couple of others. The voice acting category is going to be almost all Expedition 33. But Catwalk, thanks for 28 months. I appreciate that so much. And the member battle currently has not really heated up just yet. We will see who's going to take that first 25 to get the 5 for their platform. I just can't partake in this conversation because I just don't like turn-based games. I don't understand it. I get why people like them. I just play other things. Yeah, I mean, I traditionally did not like turn-based games either. And I remember the first time I saw Expedition 33, I said, oh, I bet I'm going to like that one. The voice acting is kind of meh in Expedition 33 because of the lip sync for me. It certainly hurts the scenes. I won't argue that. Assume Parasite. I was getting ready to disagree with your take. I was like, are you high? But you turned things around in the second half of your sentence. No, it does affect. It affects the scenes. There are some scenes that are not nearly as potent because it looks like a ventriloquist dummy, kind of like somebody else is talking. It hurts the immersion a little bit. I've been saying since the beginning, I think that once we have the discussion about the end of the game, then I can elaborate. Well, wait, without getting into the end of the game, what are you wanting to say? Where do you land on Expedition? You don't think it's going to win or deserves to win? Oh, here it is. My issue with Expedition 33 is the story. I think Act 3 completely deconstructs a good chunk of the story. It's like finding out that Raiders of the Lost Ark have been the same without Indy. Yeah, I don't agree. Yo, thank you so much. Pony Juice with a 20 spot says Microsoft is money hatting Death Stranding 2 because Xbox is a PlayStation. What the frick? Where's the energy? No, that's good. I like that. Just absolutely broken logic. Absolutely broken logic. That's incredible. Oh, that's good. That's one of my favorites. Did you miss a re-up? No, I grabbed Catwalk. Yeah, I got Catwalk. So guys, make sure you're smashing the like button. We are looking through here and checking in on Death Stranding. I already did and read through the reviews. 30 to 40 minutes of kind of reading and critiquing some of the approaches. I think the reviews generally all sounded very fair and very good. The one in particular that we took issue with was IGN France that seemed to be a little bit more about Kojima than the game itself. They had expectations of what it sounded like what they wanted him to do, and it sounds like they did not think he went in the right direction, and they seemingly took a lot of points off of that. They gave it a 6 out of 10. Milk Dud with 20 months and a member plus. This year is insane for gaming, and 2026 looks good as well. And 24 months for Brian. Get that red badge, brother. Get that red badge. Okay, we are officially 10 away from that first milestone. So now's the time to try to steal if you're going to steal. If you guys have been holding off, a 10 bomb will get us to the first 25, and whoever does it, I will owe your platform 5 members. Whoever hits it gets it. They don't review games based on predetermined metrics, so there's always going to be a handful that stand out. Not everyone is going to like even a great game. Well, for sure. I'm not ever going to say, how dare you give a game a low score? Everybody should have loved this. But what I do is I try to go to their critiques and their criticisms to see, okay, how valid is this? And to me, the IGN France outlet seems to be a little bit more fixated on Kojima and what he should or should not have done as this sort of genius that they view him as. And they felt that he fell short of that. It didn't seem as though they were critiquing the game. Oh, well, the content loop and the story and the twists and the turns and the surprises and the voice acting and the writing. It wasn't about any of that. It was about, he made it more accessible and it really deconstructed the game and watered down what we felt Kojima should have done. They viewed the first game sort of through a lens of, it's great because it doesn't hold your hand and it's hard and you've really got to find your way. And game 2 is not doing that, which I think is contextually sensible given all that you do in the first game. It wasn't going to be a reset of well, yeah, Sam Porter Bridges, sorry, you don't have anything, you don't know anything, everything you did in the first game has been basically invalidated because we wanted the second game to be hard again. Also, it sounds like, not the only person. Some took issue with the fact that they made it a little bit easier and focused on combat. And a 10 bomb comes in from Rissick, and he says, we're taking it. It's Team YouTube's. There we go. I owe 5 members to YouTube. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to start trying to do these right away because I think a couple of times last week I forgot and then couldn't remember. And I think I was like just erring on the side of like, I think I owe you guys a 10 bomb. And I was just like dropping 10 bombs on YouTube pretty regularly. So there you guys go. Yeah, so like I'm never going to be like angry that like, oh, they gave it a bad score, how dare they? I always like to see the merits of their criticism. Like, okay, are you criticizing, like did the game fail? What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. Did the game fail to do what it set out to do, or did it make decisions that you don't agree with? Like this, you see the difference? Like okay, so let's say I go into Ghost of Yotei, and the story threshold of Yotei fixates more on revenge against those who killed her family and doesn't grapple enough with the tension of vengeance and justice that we dealt with in Tsushima 1. And if I feel like that change in tone was wrong, and I therefore then take off points, I'm not saying they told a bad story. I'm saying, well, they went in a direction with the story that I didn't want them to. I wish they would have gone in this direction. Therefore, I'm taking off points. And it's like, it's a thin line between critiquing something as it's been built and did it do a good job in that, or did you want them or think they should do X, and because they didn't do X, you're like, well, I'm taking points off. Does that make sense? That's the IGN France review read a little bit too much like that. It was like, well, I felt like Death Stranding 2 should have been like this, and because it wasn't like this, 6 out of 10. It's like, okay, judge it on its merits. Did it do a good job with the systems, the mechanics, the new combat, the new story, the new biome, the voice acting, the twists and the turns? I'm assuming there were, surprises and some sucker punches in there. People are underestimating Ghost of Yotei. Well, I'm not underestimating Ghost of Yotei. I just know how these things typically go, and I think Yotei has a ceiling. I think Yotei will land 87, 86 maybe. If it's higher than that, I'll be thrilled. But I just don't think so. I don't think a game like that can hit these heights. I think it's automatic, and this has nothing to do with the game or Sucker Punch. It's with the way reviewers review games. That's just what I think. I think a lot of people are going to play Yotei and be like, no, it's a good game, 8. Yeah, it was a good game, 85. I think a ton of people are going to land there almost automatically. I think it's harder for a reviewer to get to the end of Yotei to be like, oh my gosh, 95. Oh my gosh, 90. No, I think most people are going to roll credits on Yotei and be like, that was great. Good continuation of the franchise, 80, 85. And that just locks it into that threshold. That's not a knock at Sucker Punch. That's not a knock of Yotei. Tsushima is one of my all-time favorite games. That's just where I see things trending, that you've really got to land crazy good for the outlets to just throw the confetti in the air and for you to land in the 90s. You've got to absolutely hit it out of the park. And I feel like Yotei is going to get to third base, and that's excellent. Get to third base. You see what I'm saying? I was just sticking with the baseball analogy, but then it doesn't really work because now it sounds like we're talking about something else. Hang on. $5 Street Shadow, super chat from Street Shadow. I hate that I'm making the comparison, but if Expedition 33 doesn't win Game of the Year, will it be the Black Myth of this year? Also, what a freaking year for gaming. No, it will not be the Black Myth of this year, because Black Myth was commercially successful in a way that we haven't really seen before, and so the community rallied around it. It also got turned into a culture war because of IGN's stupid hit piece, written by the same person who did a puff piece for Bungie. So it, their journalistic integrity is not, it isn't worth a damn, and that's going around these days. That is one of the reasons why what happened with Black Myth happened. it got turned into something that it wasn't supposed to be, and it was like, well, now it's been, the reason it didn't win is it's political. It's like, no. I don't think that's what's going on with Expedition. Expedition is this year's Baldur's Gate 3, where people are like, well, this thing is almost sacred. If you guys are just tuning in, we've been looking at the Death Stranding 2 reviews. We went through and read a bunch. We've been kind of discussing, how reviews should focus on the game more than what somebody wanted out of the game in order to land on a score that's representative of the product. Like, I don't want to read a review that is basically like, oh, it failed to do things you were hoping for. I want to read a review of the product. How was it as a game? Is it a good video game? Instead of, well, I wanted Kojima to do X, Y, and Z. Kojima didn't do those things, therefore 6 out of 10. That's not a helpful review. All you're telling me is what you wanted and what you didn't get. You're not telling me the merits of the game and its strengths and its weaknesses. Does that make sense? The review is weirdly personal. Right. I don't find a whole lot of value in a review that is basically like, well, here is the stuff I wanted. I didn't get those things, 6 out of 10. It's like, well, unless I perfectly align with your expectations, I have no idea why you gave it such a low score. I'm going to have to go reading all the minutia of your review to be like, why in the world? Is it bad? Does it run bad? Did it do bad things? The woman trope thing was wild. That was actually not from the IGN France review. That was from the GameSpot review that also gave it a not great score. And yeah, the women trope thing didn't make much sense to me because I don't think there's any of that. There's not a hint of that in Death Stranding 1, and that they indicate that there is. And then they indicate that it's in Death Stranding 2 because Elle Fanning takes her shoes off. And again, there's reasons for that. If you're even remotely media literate, you can sense why Elle Fanning takes her shoes off. It's in the dadgum trailer that they released like a week ago. It was avowed criticism against Quiet and Metal Gear, but Death Stranding did nothing like that. Yeah, obviously Quiet is very much dialing in classic, gamer goon tropes of, half naked and voluptuous and buxom just because. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care if you want to put that in your game, that's totally fine. But there is none of that in Death Stranding. It just isn't. And the women actually, if you think about it, they play more pivotal roles of strength, endurance, and genius. If you think about the main characters in Death Stranding 1, they are not portrayed in stereotypical trope-like ways. They're actually strong, they're intelligent, they're courageous. Some of them are genius level, figuring things out. And in fact, your villains in Death Stranding 1 are dudes. Well, you could classify the one female character as villain. Not necessarily, but yeah, but not, but yeah. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand Hideo is using real political subliminal messaging. He shows hints of Freemasonry based on his writing. I didn't catch that. Wonder if tomorrow is aged up Lou. I've wondered the same thing because they constantly said in Death Stranding 1, tomorrow is in your hands. And I wondered if we know how literal Kojima likes to be. So, I mean, or is tomorrow in your hands the theme from 2? What is tomorrow is in your hands from 1 or 2? Yeah, that's the original. Yeah, tomorrow is in your hands is in the original. If that son of a gun did that from that far back, that's pretty good. Not only do Chronos the New Dawn's horrifying enemies have different attack rolls that can merge, increasing their lethality. That game looks really cool. And another big super chat from a man Googly says, the division between gamers and game journalists will become more and more like Oscar. Most movies who get Best Picture are boring AF. What were the most recent? Didn't Oppenheimer win? What were the most recent Best Picture winners? What were they? Like Oppenheimer, Anora, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Coda. Well, I know Oppenheimer was at a high level of brilliance. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. I've not seen Anora or Coda, so I don't know. That sounds pretty superficial. Game of the Year is voted on by the public, but we don't have a huge influence. Like, we influence about, like 10% or something. I'm not seeing that criticism on Death Stranding 1. Yeah, I don't get it. Really glad I watched the chronological story recap of Death Stranding 1, says Sven. I have a clear understanding of the story now for Death Stranding 2. I probably should have just played the game, but oh well, I'm excited for 2 now. I actually think what you did is perfectly fine, Sven. If it was 6 months ago, I probably would have berated you and been like, what the frick are you doing? Like, with the number of games that you play, like, how dare you, sir? But this close to DS2, I understand being like, I'm just going to watch a story so far and jump into DS2. I think that's fine. 6 months ago, this conversation would have been me telling you to shut the frick up and go install the game, right? It's like, you got plenty of time. What are you doing? I am thrilled that I did that. Like, I know people kept pressuring me. They're like, you need to give it another shot. And I was like, I want to give it another shot. And then we saw that one Death Stranding 2 trailer, and I was like, I've got to try. He's got something really special here. I could just feel it. It was like the first time I saw Expedition 33. I was like, I'm going to try that game. Usually if it's turn-based, I just skip. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to like it. But the first time I saw Expedition 33, I was like, oh, I'm trying that. That looks phenomenal, you know. Sven didn't play Death Stranding? No, he didn't. Tell Sven I'm in the same boat. I honestly ran out of time. I finished Chapter 1, but I couldn't keep going. I waited to play. Yeah, listen, I get it. Could we get 10 more likes on YouTube, guys? Thanks for the great turnout. We've only been streaming for an hour. We're going to continue to refresh this. 94 reviews in one day is pretty dadgum good. That will likely continue to go up. It's currently ranked number 2 on OpenCritic. And these ads pop up every time, and I just end up closing them. I can't close this one. Oh well. So yeah, it's in the second place. So definitely secured itself a Game of the Year nomination. You know, definitely has managed to secure that, and that'll be the big debate going forward as to whether or not, you know, it wins or somebody else wins. I mean, if you just sort of look at this list alone, it's insane. Split Fiction, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Blueprints. It's kind of weird they include stuff like this, right? Isn't this just like a new edition that they released? And then Monhun Wilds is up here. You know, you got to scroll a little bit to get into some of the other titles that we imagine, you know, will be up there. You get to that second page, and you start to see like Mario Kart World and the Alters and Doom and Ender Magnolia and the Liza P DLC. Like just a solid year all around. I don't know if there was a Liza P patch where they said they lowered the difficulty even more of some of the enemies in the DLC. So I was like, well, I wonder if it affected the main game. I went in and one-shot Swamp Monster, and so I'm not sure if they did that or not. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish that game, though. I'm not in that mood. I'm not in a mood for those games right now. And so I was playing a lot of Rematch over the weekend and enjoying that, which is weird because that's a sports game. And a single comes in. I'm not a single, I'm sorry, but a renewal. 6 months from Dylan. Lono, 6 months, Reforge Gaming, and Lono is awesome. Green badge. Hey, I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much taking us to 27. And the member battle is handily going to Team Red, but Purple, you're still in it. None of the big boys have shown up today to blow the doors off, so that today's one of the days you could win. I just want to point out the review embargo released before the early access went live. Other companies should take note. When the game is available to be played, the reviews should be out. I actually think this is a good thing to bring up because I was curious about the review embargo when we heard it was like 3 days before the game came out, but it actually is a smart play. So from a marketing perspective, a bunch of people are going to go and pre-order the game and play tomorrow. Why? Because he just took the review circuit by storm. Did you miss my membership? Oh my gosh, Hex, where is it? Oh, it was right before Ristic did a 10 bomb. Hex with 43 months. I'm so sorry. Expedition 33 is my pick. Never could get into Death Stranding, even though I do believe Kojima is a visionary. It just wasn't my cup of tea. That's totally fine. Understanding that his game is like good and well done, but not for you is completely fair. That bumps the line to 28. Sorry about that, Hex. Yeah, I mean, I look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and feel that. It's like, it's just not built for me. It's brilliant. It's well done. It's got all these great internal systems and love and passion and care and a lot of quality work. But it's like, this just isn't for me. And there's similar titles like that every year. Like Baldur's Gate 3. I knew I was never going to get far in that game. It just isn't built for me. But I could recognize greatness from a distance, you know. It's like you just can tell. You're like, they crushed this. They absolutely nailed it. Even fighting games, I'm like, well, that looks really cool, but then I just don't play them because they're just not for me. Racing games are the same way. It's like, whoa, the graphics, whoa, the cars, the detail, all of that. You know, way too much reading in Baldur's Gate 3. That's probably true. Turn-based games make you fall asleep. Well, you can't fall asleep doing turn-based in Expedition 33 because you have got to be doing dodges and parries the entire time or you will get walloped. And you'll also miss out on opportunities to get good AP points. So, yes, fighting games are now punching games and racing games are car games. Yeah, punching games and car games are not for me. This is the truth. I don't know what it is, but after I played Elden Ring DLC and Berserker Kazan, going back to Lies of P feels bad. It's a very different style. It's a very different style. Somebody said, what was it? Was it that, what game made them better? Was it Stellar Blade that I felt like made me play better in Lies of P? I think that's what it was. I think Stellar Blade's iframes were just a little wonky enough that when I went from Stellar Blade to Lies of P, I felt like I was perfect blocking so much better in Lies of P. Now, it might have been that they do more obvious telegraphs in Lies of P. There were some telegraphs in Stellar Blade. You're like, what the frick is he doing? You know, it was like this blob of crap flipping around. And then eventually you learned the tells, but I wonder if the tells are just a little bit more obvious in Lies of P or something like that. But you're coming from Elden Ring and Kazan. Like, I would imagine Elden Ring wouldn't have much of an effect because most people that play Elden Ring don't run parry. They're going to be doing like rolling, or you're going to be doing what I did, which is your guard counters and a big shield. I did that during the Mesmer fight. Yeah, I don't know why that would mess with you in Lies of P. I feel like the perfect blocking windows are and the iframes in Lies of P are pretty tight. Sony adding WBIP to their powerhouse like Spider-Man and God of War would be huge. Is that still being talked about? Trill says, I had the same feeling at first. It took me a few hours to get back into Lies of P combat. I don't remember the last time I got so hyped for a game as Death Stranding 2. Maybe GTA 5 or Elden Ring. Oh, you're that excited. What's everybody's feeling right now? Are you excited to dive in tomorrow? Are you going to watch me play? Are you going to avoid spoilers? Like, where are you guys with Death Stranding 2 gameplay? Because, I mean, I don't even know what tomorrow's show will be before we dive into gameplay, because this is just going to take over the news cycle. I've still not played Death Stranding 1. I got it on Steam. Just need a window to play it. Whew. I mean, you don't need a window. You need a garage door, brother. It's a huge game. A window. Oh, boy. I mean, it's a big game to just try to, like, squeeze in or pencil in. 10 out of 10 excited to play. I still have to beat 1. I'm excited to play. I won't be here unless I'm ahead of you, says Eugene. Try to get ahead of me in the morning. I'll play it in the afternoon. I'll only play for maybe an hour or two, so you should be able to... watch party for the recap. See, we did that with something, and it went really poorly. What did we do that? I think we did that with God of War, and it was awful. But a watch party of the recap would be cool, but the problem is I don't know how many people... I don't know how high in demand that would be, right? I don't know. I think that would be fun to have that fresh in our minds as we go in to the new game. I tried to get into Death Stranding 1, and I got bored very easily. Not sure I'll try 2, says Zyber. I'm hyped for Death Stranding 2, as I am for GTA 6 and Yote. Oh, really? Yeah, we did that for God of War, and we did not have a good result from that. Now, we were, smaller back then, so that might have had something to do with it. I can't remember. It was like what do we even call that? Let's see here. God of War story. We did recap part 1 and part 2. They were each about 3 hours long. I mean, part 1 ended up almost getting 4,000 views. Engagement, yeah, we didn't even get 300 viewers. Now, this was back, though, I mean, for goodness sakes, that was 3 years ago. We were much smaller back then. So that might have played a role. Super chat from SDO says, it's a £5 super chat. Does Death Stranding 2 with a review score of 90 and its $70 price point raise more questions on games like Outer Worlds 2 being priced at 80? Well, the topic of $80 games versus $70 games is an interesting one because, generally speaking, that's a broad decision made by Microsoft, probably Microsoft corporate. It isn't necessarily a statement about the game. Does that make sense? Much smaller back then. You're still small, Mr. Frodo. Shut the frick up, Zubair. At least I stayed the same size. Oh! I'm kidding. Anyways. Oh my gosh. The $80 price point to me, again, is more of a corporate level decision from Microsoft than a statement about Outer Worlds 2. Like, they're not saying, oh, this is an $80 game. They're saying we raised our prices. 6 is a good score? In what universe is 6 a good score? Are you just baiting for a debate? I'm super excited for Death Stranding 2. I'm close to the end of Death Stranding 1. Hopefully less than 3 to 5 hours. Can we get a shaking fist emoji? But yeah, so like I get where you're coming from. You know, I really do. If you guys are just tuning in, we've been doing it slipped. It slipped on OpenCritic. Let me show you guys. We've been doing a bit of a Death Stranding 2 review roundup, and it has slipped from a 91 to a 90. And now the reason it's below Split Fiction is because Split Fiction has more reviews, 160. Death Stranding 2 will probably catch that. It's only at 65, and it does have like 90 something over here on Metacritic. Yeah, 94 on Metacritic. So it's holding its 90 on Metacritic, and it's now also a 90 on OpenCritic, putting it in third place for the year. Still a very, very good position. This year's Game of the Year will be interesting. It will. It will. 3 to 5 hours. That's the last cutscene and credits part. Pretty much. Why don't I join your Discord? Well, welcome on in. If you guys are a member on YouTube or you're a member over there on Team Purple, make sure you do get into Discord. That's a great place to hang out and get to know everybody. Make sure you're smashing the like button as you come in. And make sure you're celebrating your renewals. We're 2 away from a nice tempting bait there. So make sure you're celebrating your renewals and checking on your primes. Starting to see a connection with Phantom Pain and Death Stranding. Looks like they almost connect. You're avoiding gameplay 10% on this. I think that's completely. You meant to say 100%. I was like, that's such a weird sentence. I'm avoiding gameplay 10%. Okay. 100%. You're avoiding gameplay 100%. I think it's totally legitimate to avoid Death Stranding 2 gameplay. I think it's totally legitimate. It's the kind of game where the most minor spoiler will feel pretty significant because it's pretty gargantuan game. There's going to be probably a lot of twists and turns. There's probably going to be some pretty significant things that happen. There's probably going to be stuff that we're with. You know how he is. You know how he is. He's going to fake us out. He's going to trick us. He's going to have people thinking one thing when something else is actually going on. That's his style of storytelling. And if you have those fake outs and those sucker punches ruined for you, it can really affect the story. Now, funny enough, I knew nothing going into Death Stranding 1, and it still ended up having those good surprises and those good twists and turns. I also like the big twist at the end of Death Stranding 1 was a surprise for me. Don't put it in chat, everybody. There are people right now that still have not rolled credits. They're working on that before tomorrow. Expedition 33 as well. I got really close. I was very generically accurate in my prediction about what was going on with Expedition 33. So, there was no way to be perfectly correct because it is very odd, but still very creative and cool. Make sure you guys are smashing that like button. Again, that's a huge help to us, even on days like today where we're having a strong turnout. It can get even more people in here. If you have not hit subscribe yet on YouTube, consider doing that. I am safe for work. We do a show like this Monday through Friday. It's highly interactive. You can come in. You can ask me questions. You can submit questions with the question command if you're a member. If you are maybe you've been gifted one on Purple or Team Red, maybe you've got a Prime. In any case, you can use that question command. We're an hour and 15 in, so it's fine if we maybe shift gears a little bit. We don't need to belabor the point. It seems that Death Stranding 2 has pretty much secured a 90 across the board, which was my guess last night in the Discord. Lone Wolf was like, where do you think this is going to land? And I was going to play it safe and be like, 88 to 90, but I decided I was going to shoot my shot, and I said 90. And it seems to have landed right on that, like almost a bullseye there. So that's I think that's it's good for gamers. It's good for gamers. It's good for, the contest to have it be so close, all the way to the end. A question from Citizen JV says, what was your first impressions on Death Stranding when you started it for the first time? So when I started for the first time, I just felt like it took in an inordinate amount of time to get going, and it really turned me off. I was like, I don't like this. It was a lot of cutscenes, and the gameplay was just not. I was just not vibing with it. I think the other part of the problem, it was not the game's fault. We were trying to find a game for me to play through in the afternoons on the stream, right? And we were going to play, for an hour or two, whatever. And I was playing, and I got snagged by some of the BTs, and they grabbed me and pulled me down, and I dropped a bunch of my stuff. And I had not sort of created the habit of like saving it pretty regularly. Anytime I would get close to an area where I thought I might get stopped and reset, I would save it. And I remember streaming it. I remember getting grabbed by some BTs. And I was like, guys, I just don't think this game's going to work because it's going to be one of those games where there is slow progress. There's going to be setbacks. And I don't think that's going to work for like a casual afternoon stream. So this year of gaming was weak. I'm not quite sure if you're just trying to bait. Like, it feels like you're just trying to bait. I don't know. I don't feel like what you're saying is genuine. I feel like you're saying things in order to get reactions. To say that a year where we got Expedition 33, Split Fiction, Death Stranding 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Blueprints, Monster Hunter Wilds, a brand new Switch, a brand new Mario Kart. You got really cool indie games like The Alters. You got Doom, Ender Magnolia, Liza P DLC. You got the Oblivion remastered. All mid. I find it hard to think that you're being serious, to think that everything that came out is just all mid. I don't really know what type of games that you play or what you were looking for. Yeah, AC Shadows, despite what everybody said about it, I thought it was actually quite good. It sold well, despite people claiming that it didn't. The reports are in. As much as I didn't like Elden Ring Night Rain and it didn't score nearly as well as others, people are really liking Elden Ring Night Rain. First Berserker Kazan, the Days Gone remaster, smaller titles as well, like The Midnight Walk. Then there was Avowed, there was Tales of Iron 2, there was South of Midnight. It's a pretty full year, and we're halfway through it, so yeah. I'm not too sure in your mind what would have made it a better year. Not exactly sure what you feel like would have made it a better year, or what Was there a year that you thought was so much better, that had just so much, more games, better games than we got this year? I thought this year was actually quite good. Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is what I'm waiting for this year. So this you're looking for that Snake Eater remake that looks like a game that they like. Okay, so hang on, let's just get our dates right here. So a 21-year-old game. 2018 was fire. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to disagree. That was a good year. I thought that was a good year, but I think this year was also great. So. Maybe he's right. We don't track Gooner games. Maybe it was a down year for Gooner games. Well, he seemed to like 2018. I'm assuming like God of War and Spider-Man and Red Dead. God of War, Red Dead. Yeah. That was a solid year. There's no disagreement. But I don't think... See, I think this is kind of what happens a lot of the times in discussions like this. Like, you almost create like this sort of false dichotomy where you're like, well, because 2018 was great, this year then is bad and mid. It's like, well, no, can't they both be good in their own way? Like, I don't know. Like, this year was it has so many solid titles that have come out. 2018 being very good in your mind doesn't make this year bad, or as you called it, I guess, mid. I've been eating good for a while now, rarely enough time to play. Yeah, I mean, my backlog's kind of stupid, and I don't know. I'm not trying to argue you into enjoyment of games you don't enjoy, but to look at the lineup already, it's just such a broad spectrum. When you have Expedition 33, Split Fiction, Death Stranding 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and Blueprints are the top 5 games of the year on OpenCritic. That's a very, very diverse lineup. That's a lot of variety, As one of the resident Gooners of Reforge Gaming, I can assure you, Gooner stocks are up. Yeah. This has been the best. Game Pass. Game Pass has never been... I don't know, has Game Pass ever been at this level before? Since its inception? This has got to be the strongest year Game Pass has ever had. I mean, Expedition 33 being on there just tipped it over, in my mind. Because you did get Avowed and South of Midnight and the Oblivion remaster, and Doom. But oh my gosh, you also got Expedition 33. I mean, it's pretty heavy hitting year for Game Pass. He likes shooters. You saw this year was weak. Sorry. Well, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't think it's weak. It just seems like the problem is not with the year's offerings. The problem seems to be you have a pretty narrow palette. You're like, well, Red Dead 2 and God of War were great. But you'll look straight-faced at like Expedition 33, Split Fiction, Death Stranding 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Monhun Wilds, and Doom. And you're just like, It's like, I don't know. That it seems like maybe you just have a and it's okay to have a narrow palette. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If you have a narrow palette and all you really like to do when you go out to eat is get a ribeye and nothing else, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what you like. But you can't go to a restaurant and be like, yeah, Moses' menu is mid. It's like, well, you like one thing, We be bugging on YouTube sometimes with our takes. Well, I don't mind having weird takes. I don't think there's anything wrong with having weird takes. Again, it sounds more like your palette is narrow. It's not that the games stink. It's like, I like a very, very, sort of narrow slice of gaming. That's perfectly fine. If you know what you like, you stick to that and you're going to have a good time. That's not an indictment of all the other games that have come out. Does that make sense? He's interested in massive AAA masterpieces. In that sense, I'm not sure we've gotten one this year yet. I mean, Death Stranding comes out tomorrow, early access. It sounds like it's there. We wouldn't consider, well, yeah, I guess, isn't the team behind Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 getting into the debate about AAA indie and all that is wasted effort to a certain degree. I feel like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a pretty big title. Didn't they have a pretty big publisher behind that? And Monhunt Wilds is from Capcom. I mean, that's not a small title by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I think he said masterpiece, though. Would anybody argue that Monster Hunter Wilds is a masterpiece? I mean, it definitely didn't launch in the greatest of states. Even the people that are really excited about Wilds, I don't know if they would say, oh, it's a masterpiece. I think they would say, oh, no, it's very good, and I've really liked it. It didn't get scored all that particularly well because of performance issues in those early days. You love the Witcher games, too? Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is a really important thing for gamers to do, is to know thyself. Like, if you know what you like, you can spare yourself a lot of frustration. Now, I still think that gamers should attempt to expand their horizons, as I have really enjoyed, opening up my horizons, and I love Returnal. And I love Expedition 33. Expedition 33 is now in my top 10 of all time. Returnal's in like my top 5. And that's a rogue and a turn-based game. And for the longest time, I was always like, I don't like rogues and I don't like turn-based games. And I did not like Death Stranding 1 when it came out. When Death Stranding 1 came out, I did not like it. And Death Stranding 1 is now in my top 10. It is one of my favorite games. It is just brilliantly told. It is very well built. And it is very enjoyable. And it looks like the sequel has secured itself a really strong spot this year in third place overall on Metacritic and a 90 on Metacritic and third place overall on OpenCritic. We are all old. I'm sure people have evidence that back their very specific tastes at this point. Yeah. Sometimes your tastes have been shaped for so many years. It is difficult. It's not even like it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. It's hard to get an old dog to eat new food. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what you like. You know what you think tastes good. Yo, it's good, Keenan. I think perception is reality for a lot of people. The unfortunate part of that statement is that a lot of people's perception is painted by a very disingenuous conversation about games. Right, so what you're saying is they're not necessarily being disingenuous. Like, they might look at Death Stranding 2 and be like, it looks mid. And they're not being disingenuous. But maybe they've been influenced by disingenuous takes about Death Stranding 1, right? People are like, it's a walking sim. And they were a little bit more motivated to say that because of, maybe they've got an agenda against Kojima. Maybe they've got an agenda against PlayStation. You just never know. And then somebody's like, yeah, it's mid. And they haven't opened up their palette or their horizons to even try it. Death Stranding 2 ain't on Red Dead 2 level. Right, but hang on one second. I want to engage with what you're saying. Sterling Archer comes in with 20 months and gets us to 29 members on the week. Thank you so much over there on Team Purple. Moving the line just a teeny bit. One more for a nice little setup of bait there. Would love to see Purple start hitting hard today. You didn't add my renewal to the total. I am so sorry. We are at 30. My bad, Duke. I was going to say, I thought we were at 29. I already thought we were at 29. Okay, there we go. That's my bad, dude. All right, it's 8 to 22. We are 20 away from the next milestone. Whoever hits it gets it. If it hits 50, your platform gets 5 members from me. Team Purple, Team Red. It's hanging there. Now, let me interact with what you're saying, Killmonger. Death Stranding 2 ain't no, Red Dead 2. Okay. First and foremost, it doesn't have to be. They're very different games. Secondly, to constantly go back and have a game that's almost sacred to you, and then you sort of always compare everything to that, I think you're falling prey to what I would view as a mistake. You can live your life however you want. I think it's a mistake to sort of allow comparison to always steal potential joy from you. Like, comparison is the thief of joy, right? So if every time a game comes out, you're like, Red Dead 2 is sacred, it's so good, it's my all-time favorite, I'm going to constantly compare everything to it, you're just sort of preemptively setting up every game to not be that great. You're setting up every game to be less than. Instead, you could say Red Dead was one of those, special instances of tons of time and passion and effort from a world-renowned studio, and it's one of their bangers, and we all know it. And I'm going to allow other games to shine in their own way. It would be like, I grew up in the era of the three-peat Chicago Bulls, and my memory of that is that Michael Jordan is untouchable, he's sacred, right? We're not getting into a debate about b-ball. Okay, we're not. Now, if I constantly, every single time I ever watched anything, always said, well, this sporting event is boring because it's not at that height, well, then I wouldn't have enjoyed the Olympics. I wouldn't have enjoyed anything, right? You could do the same thing with TV shows. Like if there's a show or a movie that you just think is like the absolute best and you rewatch it with regularity, you can almost make it to where like you're never going to enjoy anything, quite like that ever again. I put Cyberpunk above Red Dead 2. You would put Cyberpunk above Red Dead 2? Wow. It's like there's a movement that says AAA gaming is in a bad place, and if you're in that camp or influenced by that camp, then your view of AAA games is already tainted. Right. It also seems that... thank you, Benj768, for doing your prime over here on Team Purple. It also seems, Corey, like the anti-AAA thing is very much, it fixates on the worst actors and doesn't even remotely want to acknowledge all the other great games that come out. It seems forced. I'll just say it. It seems very forced to try to argue that AAA games are cooked and AAA games suck. I'm sorry. It's very forced. It's like, well, we're only going to look at the bad games. We're not going to look at all the other good games. And here's the other real problem with this argument, okay? I need to make this video. I've been thinking about this for a while. When you sort of, weaponize something like Expedition 33, right? I need to write this down so I don't forget. Double A's fail all the time. So the indictment of AAA is that you go and you look at these really big fails, right? But in the world of indie and AA, quantitatively, there's way more that fail and flop. I mean, way more. So you would never do that, right? You would never turn around and say, well, AA games and indie games suck. Well, why? Well, because of the litany of games that come out every year that are trash, that are AA and indie. Go into Steam. It's an ocean of mediocrity and crap. There's so many titles that come out every single day, every single week, that are trash. They're throwaway. Nobody talks about them. Nobody plays them. They're buggy. They're glitch-riddled. They're not worth paying attention to. That is not an indictment of all AA and indie games. But this is what we do with AAA. That's what we do with AAA. A couple AAAs fall flat on their face because of what they do and how they manage the games and how they build the games. And we're like, yeah, AAA sucks. AAA's cooked. You don't do that with indies and AAs, and there's way more. I mean, way more. There's so many. It doesn't. It's not. Again, it's not an argument that's made that sort of takes the whole spectrum of games that have come out. Because AA has been fantastic this gen while also being bad. AA and indie have been fantastic this gen while also being bad. AAA has been fantastic this gen while also being bad. I feel like it's actually always been this way. It's always been this way. There have always been just absolute stellar, standout, banger titles, and every generation has a bucket full of Superman 64s. Every generation. This isn't new. I just don't think so. I don't think it's new. I don't think it's like something has happened to greed and this or that and the third. And it's like, no, I think it's always been this way. You've always had mainline titles that are great, mainline titles that suck. Little titles that are great, little titles that suck. I don't think it's different. I think right now you can do what is essentially how the Instagramification of people's lives, where you get their highlight reel, right? Everything is filtered. Every angle of the camera makes them look like they're the hottiest of the hotties. It looks like they're always traveling. It looks like they're always having this great life, right? The Instagramification of existence has made people feel all sorts of terrible things. Like it's created a self-esteem epidemic in young women, especially like age 13 to 18. It's an absolute epidemic, like a huge problem. Self-harm rates are skyrocketing, right? And Instagramification is a huge aspect. One of many, but it's a huge aspect. There's an inverse of the Instagramification, and it is basically what we would call the fabricated defamation, I guess is what we'll call it. We're just constantly sort of like defaming and making it seem like everything is so bad and it's fabricated. Like you can cherry pick the inverse of a highlight reel. You can inverse that. Like, oh, here's all the great things and my life's great. Well, take the inverse highlight reel of a person, yelling at a fast food worker and stubbing their toe and yelling at their kid and being rude and being unkind and crying and feeling anxiety. Like, throw that highlight reel on your Instagram. It's like, that's kind of like what we do to, AA games, is we pick the inverse of the highlight reel to paint this non-Instagramified filter of, everything sucks. Everything is terrible. And it's probably very similar to the Instagramification if you take a broader snapshot. No, actually, it's pretty nuanced. There's great and bad and everything in between. For every Expedition 33, there is 30 Life of Black Tiger level games. Yeah, we played Getting Over It once for like a raid stream, I think. We're absolutely destroyed the next generation. They have no self-esteem, no jobs. Yeah, it's bad. That's one of the things I want to write. I've got like a 10 chapter outline of a book about tech integration leads to the death of self, but I don't have time to write it. But again, I think you see that in content creation. You see that in YouTube metas that have kind of emerged, where you give people a very slanted view to make it seem as though everything is going live service and sucks. Everything AAA sucks. And it's like, wait, what? No, that's not, what? Like, my backlog is full of games that are AA, indie, and AAA. My logged hours this gen are full of AA, AAA, indie, and live service games. 80-something hours in Helldivers. I've been plugging away at Rematch. I mean, that's a live service game. That's a dadgum sports game. Who would have thought? I've got 7 hours in Rematch, brothers. That's a lot for me in a sports game. Yeah, I'm not saying young men aren't affected. It's just it's a larger epidemic in young women. Young men are suffering in different ways. I don't want to go down that road. The point is that I think a lot of the AA is cooked, AA sucks, gaming sucks. I think a lot of it is quite literally the other side of Instagramification. It's willful defamation. It's like, we're going to make everything look sucky and bad, and we're going to do so by cherry picking examples. You need to write that book. The world needs it. Dadgummit. I mean, I've had people, and I've outlined the book and the intention of the book to parents, and they're dying for it to be a resource, and I just don't have time. Something I've been thinking since I am old enough to remember the origins of social media is a conceit of Death Stranding 2. Maybe we shouldn't have all connected. Young ladies and young men are facing similar but different pressures based on frameworks established for those roles. Yeah, it's bad. It's rough out here for everybody. Yeah. If you're a parent and your kid's begging for a cell phone, wait as long as you possibly can. Just hold. That's the line worth holding. Hold that line. Hold the line, because it is, wow. It is a dangerous tool. Here's a question from Citizen JV. You guys can submit questions as members, so always remember you can do this. Not trying to change the subject. Do you think Avowed will come to PS5? I don't see why it wouldn't. Xbox seems to be on the precipice of just being sort of day and date with everything as time goes on. So yeah, I imagine it will eventually. I don't see why they wouldn't. The cost to port to PlayStation is probably pretty minimal compared to what they stand to make. If you guys are watching on YouTube, by the way, take a quick second and double check the like count. Let's try to hit 300 likes right now. Make sure it's saving it. I know we've been harping on this lately. I haven't had to. We've actually done a very good job today, but we are close to that milestone, and it will help. It'll bring more folks in. So yeah, I feel like Xbox has very clearly signaled that like everything's coming. There's no real reason to hold on to anything. Whether or not you're a long-standing fan, whether or not you're, you've been hoping that they either walk it back or do less or whatever. I just don't think that's going to happen. So Death Stranding 2 review roundup. Death Stranding 2 review score landing at a 90 on OpenCritic and a 90 on Metacritic, basically the third highest scoring game this year. So we will be diving into that tomorrow. So if you're here, we kind of read through a bunch of the reviews. You got questions, feel free to ask them. People are too focused on people and issues far away when they could have a big impact if they focus on their local community. Well, for sure. 90 with almost 100 reviews is pretty darn good for a game so big. Yes. Yeah. Very, very strong score. Yo, what's good, Dan? Has Fable been confirmed day and date for PlayStation? It has not been confirmed day and date. That was a rumor that cropped up in the wake of the delay. So it's an unconfirmed thing at this point. I would imagine that, Fable, Clockwork Revolution was the standout for me at the Xbox Showcase. I thought it looked so good. Great vibe, great tone, great humor. I absolutely loved it. State of Decay 3 is very much out of the frame, and nobody really knows why. Really makes you question the alleged gameplay that they showed last year, which I told you was not gameplay. It was very similar to the simulated gameplay of Fable. I wish these companies would kind of stop the shenanigans. We shouldn't even have to have these debates. There should just be a very clear line between, like, this is gameplay, and here's Dave, and he's controlling the character, and, like, something that's just sort of showing you what gameplay might look like. We have been here before, and I think it's just time for us to start saying, nope, absolutely not. That wasn't gameplay. Stop it. Show me real gameplay or cut the crap. Either show me a cinematic or show me gameplay. All this in between stuff. No, I want to know what I'm looking at, not this stupid marketing mirage that we commonly get. I'm so tired of it. I'm very tired of it because it just leads to debates with the audience that thinks like, oh, you're just being a hater, and it's like, no, I'm interested in the game. I want to know what it looks like, dadgummit. Like, I felt this way about Yote. That's why I was looking forward to seeing gameplay, because up to now we've seen like snippets of what is like simulated or maybe like in-engine animations running instead of like the actual game itself. Don't pull a mind's eye. Guys, double check it again. We almost got there. Make sure you're hitting that like count. We're super, super close to hitting 300 likes. That really, really helps. All right, next question came in from Murphy's Little Gamer Addiction. Says, do you think PlayStation 5s will sell well with Switch 2 and PC handheld making such a difference? Well, the PC handhelds are doing virtually nothing in the market in the grand scheme of things. Switch 2 is going crazy, but that has no bearing on PlayStation. PlayStation even said, I believe in their recent earnings call, like they don't see that really as a competitor or a threat. Switch is going to go crazy and continue to go crazy. PlayStation 5 is maintaining what seems to be healthy sales thresholds. I have it on very good authority that they are internally very happy that PS5 is keeping pace with PS4 without a mid-gen sale. Usually mid-gen they drop the price. They have not done that, and that usually is a big help. So they're maintaining a good pace without that price drop. And, you know, Xbox raising their prices probably is helping them as well. They're getting to avoid it, and if they can avoid it for the remainder of this year, I think it'll put them in a really good spot, because then, you know, GTA 6 will give them another nice injection next year. So I don't think the PC handhelds are doing virtually nothing globally. I mean, they're doing fine. They're not doing bad. But like globally, totally, all the years they've been out, it's like, what, 6 million total sold. That's not going to put a dent into that's not going to put a dent in a console that's on its way to 100 million sales. Like, that just, you're not going to do it. It's not going to really detract. So there's not going to be someone who's like, well, I was really going to get a PS5 or a Pro, but there's an $800 handheld I can get. You see what I'm saying? Let me say it another way. Everybody really balked at the price of the PS5 Pro being $700, and they said, you know, the casuals aren't going to buy them, the average gamer's not going to buy them, which is generally true. That's not really who it was designed for. Well, do you honestly think then that like an $800 handheld is going to like kick in the door and be like this massive powerhouse within the market and within market saturation? I just don't think so. So thank you for the renewal, Alex. He says, is it weird that I'm kind of interested in getting an Xbox PC even though I have a PlayStation where I can play Xbox games on there? Genuine question. It depends on why you're interested. I think everybody's interest is a little bit different. Like, my interest in the future Xbox hardware is not just one as content creator, but also somebody who's like, oh man, a simplified, stripped-down operating system and box that I can plug into my television that allows me to have access to Steam games is a huge win. I can comfortably sit on my couch and play, you know, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Not Deep Rock Galactic. You guys always run to my comments and look, you can play Deep Rock Galactic on your console, and it is co-op. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor it was a big hit with me. Having that in my living room is a big win, but everybody's different. You know, the average person right now who is either switching teams to PC or switching teams to PlayStation from Xbox hardware, given everything that's happened, I don't think there's going to be a groundswell of those folks that are like, well, I'll tell you what, that PC for the living room really changed things. I think the insistence that like Xbox is the future, it's so forced, it's kind of embarrassing. I'll just say it. It's just very forced. It's just super forced. It seems, I don't know. It seems like somebody was literally handed a cue card. Can you guys all start saying this, please? Like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like it's so see-through. The whole thing feels see-through to me. It just doesn't feel genuine. It feels like we've been here before, time and time again. Xbox does some kind of a pivot or some kind of a thing that is hailed as the future, and then it ends up not being like that at all. At this point, I don't know how anybody has any confidence in that brand in the gaming space, like, at all. I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. We went from the TV debacle to an entire gen hamstrung by the Series S to, I mean, just a pile of broken promises. What the frick did they do to get your loyalty? It doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. I don't get it. Like, I get ridiculed and criticized for basically leaving and being more on the PlayStation side of things now. I get called every name in the book for that. Well, at least my decision makes the loyalty makes no sense. They've given you nothing but a pile of broken promises this gen. What the frick are you doing? What? Why? What? This is the future. This is where things are headed. Okay, you guys have placed a lot of bad bets this gen, and you're basically bankrupt now. So what are you betting the house on here? I don't get it. Yeah, there was a blip there on YouTube. Bit of a blip. Not on Twitch, though. Lazaro with 27 months says, 27 months, baby, just popping in while I have a chance. Love the community. Thank you, Lazaro. 25 months from Dirge. He says, chat, go eat lunch and drink water. Thanks for 25 months and a VIP. And then Savage Sharkbite over here on Purple using the Prime for 47 months. That's a lot of months. That takes this to 33. Thank you so much. And the member battle each moves up by 1. Thank you so much. 23 to 10. We're hanging out. Slow start to the week, but that's okay. That is okay. We've had slow starts before, and then you guys go nuts. This week, the goal is not just to unlock Friday night, but to make Madam play Death Stranding 2, which will probably be hilarious. Anyway, here we go. Another question coming in from Petrov. What do you think about the PlayStation's next handheld? I don't know enough to comment. I mean, we've heard a variety of things. If it can't play PS5 games, it sounds pointless to me. You know what I mean? If you can't play PS5 games, I don't know what the frick you're going to do with it. I feel like they've made a breakthrough with the AI and the upscaling and PSSR. I feel like whatever they did with the Pro likely brought us here. Now, because around the same time that we heard leaks about the PS5 Pro, we heard leaks about the Q Lite. I would imagine internally, if you're calling something Q Lite, there's a PlayStation Q somewhere, which would then therefore lead me to believe there's a better, more robust, like actual handheld. So we'll see. If it doesn't play PS5 games, then I'd be genuinely kind of confused what its purpose is. I see it as being like companion to PS6, and their Project Amethyst will be a part of that breakthrough, maybe. We're kind of just taking questions all over the place, guys. Now we have kind of done our due diligence. We're almost 2 hours into the broadcast. We did our Death Stranding 2 review roundup. It's holding solid at a 90, so we typically don't like belabor the point and like make you guys stay on topic. I'll typically then just start taking questions from the audience. When you can use that with the question command, as long as you're a member on YouTube or a member on Team Purple, wherever you're watching. Citizen JV asked a question here. I asked a friend recently if he was going to get Borderlands 4. He said he thinks it's a cash grab. I'm inclined to agree and disagree. What are your thoughts? I don't. Your friend doesn't make any sense to me. A brand new game with 4 new Vault Hunters and all these great new features is a cash grab? Huh? I don't even know how to engage with that. It's a brand new game. And as far as we can tell, it seems pretty significant in size and scope, and they've iterated on all the movements. I don't get that at all. I would need you to flesh out why he thinks that. Like, listen. Citizen JV, I don't know your friend, but he sounds stupid. I'm just kidding. Like, but they kind of do sound stupid. It's like, what do you mean it's a brand new game? I don't know. It's not a DLC. It's not a remaster. It's not a remake. It's none of the cliches that typically get labeled with cash grab. Like, it is a brand new game that seems honestly very substantive. And credit where credit is due, Gearbox has let us see a stupid amount of the game. Preview event, their own event, another event recently. They're letting us see an awful lot of that game, boys. I don't have a whole lot of doubt that it's like a nice, full, robust game. So did he outline his position more on why he feels it's a cash grab? Mind's Eye is a cash grab, not Borderlands. Yeah. Now, sadly, a lot of you are not interested in Borderlands, which kind of hurts my heart because I was hoping we would cover it a lot and do a lot with it. And you guys are all very shrugged about it, which is a bummer. I went the poll. I don't think the poll turned around. 70% of you were just like, no, I'm not interested in the game. We did a poll, and I mean, it got a lot of votes. 3,000 votes is pretty good. It's got more votes than this dadgum marathon poll. And I mean, look at the number of you that just said no. That's disappointing. That means my audience is just not interested in Borderlands coverage, and we saw that evidence when we did a stream about it recently. You know, that's a bummer for me. Mighty Keef. Why are you saying that? Did Citizen JV say anything more in chat about why their friend called it a cash grab? Not seeing it. I love Borderlands and already pre-ordered the Super Deluxe Edition. Yeah, I haven't done any pre-orders with it yet. Another question coming in from Murphy's Little Gamer Addiction. Do you think next generation like PlayStation 6 and the next gen Xbox will play Steam? I know there's rumors, but is it realistic? I don't think PlayStation has even the remotest of interest in putting another storefront on their platform. Like, I don't think like at all. I don't think they're interested in that. Xbox seems interested in vacating their hardware efforts and instead having other companies make their hardware for them. And what they're focusing on and they're drilling down in is their software. I think they're more fixated on, let's have a really, really good operating system. And as you know, Sarah Bond said, they want Windows to be the largest gaming platform. So I think they've completely shifted and sort of vacated. I called it an exit strategy. We've said for a long time they want to leave hardware. And this is how they're doing it. They're basically like, yeah, we're not focused on hardware. We're going to focus on the software. We're going to focus on the operating system side as well as publishing. We're going to let other people do the hardware for us. So I think the handheld is like a test case of that. Well, Asus will make it. And then whatever their console is in the future, this hybrid or whatever, you know, future handhelds as well. You know, rigs, things like that, PCs. I think they're going to have other people make them, and then their operating system will be on it. That's going to be sort of their new approach to gaming. Yeah, and Windows, they want it to be better, so that's their focus. We all know that Windows isn't the best operating system, but it's what we got, and their focus seems to be like, let's make this as good as possible. So when our OS shows up on a handheld or this future console thing that they're building, it will be much better than it is currently. This is just essentially what many of us said they were going to do. They were going to do software strategy. And they're a software company. It's what their core competency is. Their core competency has never been hardware. I don't even think their core competency is gaming. I think their core competency is software. It's why they treat gaming companies like they're software companies. And it doesn't work all that well. Just renewed. Thank you, Adam King, for 15 months. You said, I've got a stack of feet pics for a Mr. Lono. That's not for me. You got a spelling error there. That takes us to 34 on the week. Thank you so much. Mr. Adam King, thanks so much for sticking with me. So yeah, the move with Xbox is also not one that you would necessarily classify as like bad. You would just say, well, this is not what a lot of people expected and signed up for. You know, we covered that last week, and I was like, this is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's subjective to whatever your values are as a consumer. You know, is this scratching the itch that you have? Is this scratching the consumer need that you have? Xbox was OS, was re-architected at the time. I don't see how they can't do that with Windows again for gaming. I don't think there's anything preventing them from doing that. I think it'll probably end up being... It'll be better than whatever they're currently doing, obviously. But, you know, because, you know, the results are in. I mean, I watched a Bellular video about this. They're very much, you know, seemingly trying to get out into a lead position here, or at least compete with SteamOS. Having more options is always a good thing. I mean, you could call this more options, or you could call it less. It depends on how you look at it. Folks wanting a traditional console centered around exclusives and studios that are prizing that hardware, you're losing that. I mean, make no mistake, what PlayStation is doing with the PS5 Pro and the PlayStation 5 hardware, Xbox has completely abandoned that fight. I actually argue that that's a negative for the consumer because we get, I think, the best when a company is doing that. I think we get better games. Historically speaking, if you look at the amount of times that a first-party studio effort from PlayStation has been nominated, or Nintendo, same deal, I think those are some of the best games that we've received. And historically speaking, I think that's when Xbox was shining its brightest as well. When you had games that were focused on, you got to be an absolute banger because this is how you make your platform appealing. Breaking up that marriage, I've continually said that gamers were cheering for that marriage to be broken up, and it was that was a self-inflicted wound to cheer for that marriage to be broken up. It's like everybody's saying, oh, this is the future, developers are just going to build their games and they're going to be available everywhere. It's like, I don't think you realize what you're arguing for. You're arguing for that you're breaking up a marriage that actually yields good things for you. You just don't think so because, to be a little bit crass, it's like a kid cheering for his parents to get divorced so he can get double the presents at Christmas. He's looking at things so short-sightedly. It's like you're literally self-inflicting a wound that you think's going to yield more for you. Oh, well, I won't have to buy a Nintendo or a PlayStation in the future if all these companies would do this. Again, you're breaking up a marriage that yields great results for you. And again, if a kid was that short-sighted and dumb because he saw his buddy getting double the Christmas presents because his parents were busted up and he was like rooting for his parents to get divorced, you'd be like, you're an idiot. You're wanting to self-inflict harm on your life and your existence for a very superficial and very material thing. So it's like this idea that like, well, yeah, let's break up that marriage where the developer and the platform are like interwoven and what that yields is so good. Well, no, let's break that up. And developers should just build for every platform. And I'm like, I don't think people think through what they're arguing for. They don't. It's very short-sighted. It's a dog whistle that Phil blew, and that's mainly why people are driving the narrative. They're not driving the narrative because of like actual analysis of the historical, precedents for, first-party studios, building something for a particular box. They're not looking at that. They're not looking at the history of the games that they hail as generational and defining and tentpoles. They're basically just taking, their talking point signals from an executive. Ikagang with a 14 spot says Game Pass destroyed Xbox. I think that's also superficial a little bit. PC optimization will be a lot easier. I'm not ready to say that because again, you don't know if you just don't know if that's true. You end up with this cascade of devices. Where are you going to put your priority, Rope? Are you going to put your priority on something that has virtually no saturation in the market? Or are you going to put your priority on where there's larger saturation? Like, this future console PC hybrid, okay? Do you think it's going to come even close to the saturation of the PlayStation 5? Probably not. So when someone's optimizing and considering that set of, peripherals and hardware, you think it's going to have a ton of priority? Or are they going to prioritize like PlayStation 5 and the Pro and enhancements they can do there, with its trajectory? Same with Switch 2. Which Switch 2 will largely probably make porting companies a ton of money, I would think. Bear says, why would PC optimization be easier? Yeah, I don't know why that. Why is that the assumption? They have a standard of PC to optimize like Steam Deck. Oh, hang on, Citizen JV. His friend's comment about Borderlands. He thinks it's a cash grab because of the season pass and the expansions for the game. We don't have any details about that. So your friend is potentially misinformed. We have no details. And Borderlands has always done season passes that get you like 4 DLCs. So it's possible he has heard they're going to do that again. And maybe he's thinking they're going to go like the live service season pass route. Historically speaking, like, let me just show you. Borderlands 2 season pass. Let me just try to get a picture on the screen so you can kind of see why this is not at all a problem, okay? So historically speaking, this is what a season pass looks like for a game like Borderlands. This is not a Fortnite season pass. This is not a battle pass. This represents 4 DLCs. Okay. Now, if they go this route again, I believe they have done a good job with this in the past. So I know there was recently something that happened with their website and the collector's edition, and like Mighty Keef, called them out about it, and I believe it's been rectified. So maybe your friend saw something about that and feels like, yeah, they're trying to rip people off. They explained the season pass and the pre-order extra content. It came out late last week. Where have they explained this? Because I was not able to do any research into this. Over the weekend, I saw people talking about it, and I was not able to look into it because I was with my family. You have to buy the deluxe edition to get the true game. In what respect? What's the true game? What do you mean? Well, no, PC optimization would be easier if everything Xbox branded, but that's technically just a PC utilizing AMD UDNA. But they would have to keep a lock on that. Yeah, I'm not caught up on this. I've not done the due diligence to research it. I saw people upset. I saw people saying that it had been rectified on the website. They had fixed whatever was confusing. All right, I tell you what we're going to do. Let's get 16 more likes. We're really close to 300 likes. But review roundups tend to run out of steam, which is totally fine. We've made it 2 hours. I'm very pleased with that. That we usually only make it about an hour. So this has been a good conversation, but we're obviously like way off topic. I would be willing to keep it going and extend, but I put that in your hands. So I don't know, I'll give you 15 minutes. If we can get basically 15 members in 15 minutes, if we get to 50, if we get halfway to where we want to be by the end of the day, we'll keep going. If not, we'll just go to Green Room a little bit early today. I think that's justifiable. Extending a review roundup stream, I'm totally fine with doing, but we are not even remotely on topic now, which is, again, totally fine. But it serves our purposes and aims to not do that, because this video then overstays its welcome, and then it ends up being very off topic. The deluxe edition has the base game plus 4 small Headhunter style DLCs. The $130 super deluxe edition has the 2 expansion type DLCs and 2 new Vault Hunters. So it costs $130 for the full game. Yeah, but that's not the full game. No, the full game is the $70 game at launch. Getting DLC and 2 new Vault Hunters, so 6 total Vault Hunters, that's not the full game. Some DLCs hold the true ending. What? How do we know that? How do you know there's not a genuine ending? I mean, Borderlands 1, a lot of people consider the true ending being beyond the vault and like Nox's DLC. But the true ending of Borderlands 1 happens. The true ending of Borderlands 2 happens, and then there's all this extra stuff that you can do. How do we know that? Has that been definitively stated? Sorry. Has that been definitively stated by Gearbox? Some DLCs have different endings. So you mean to tell me they have informed the public that we're getting alternate endings to the vanilla launch version of the game, but like later in DLCs? This is what they've indicated. That's what you're communicating to me. I feel like maybe we've misunderstood something along the way. That sounds very bizarre. That just sounds very bizarre to me. I understand that, but the argument online is that you need 130 to get all the content. But that's not all the content. See, this is the problem. Everyone's hunting for controversy. They have always done this. Base game would be $60, and then for like $40, you could get all of the DLC. It was like $10 per DLC typically. And then in Borderlands 2, they had it all, and then they had they added the 2 Vault Hunters. They added Krieg and I forget her name, and Gage. Okay, so it sounds like they're doing the same thing. It sounds like base game is $70, but it sounds like now DLC is quite a bit more expensive than in the past. It sounds like the DLC is basically like everything's an extra $60. In the past, I think everything extra was like $40. All past game DLCs have added lore and content to the game, not totally changing the ending of the base game. Right. I'm fairly certain, wasn't it $40 to get all the extra stuff for Borderlands 2? Borderlands 2 Season Pass price at launch. It looks like it was $30 at launch. So the game was $60, and then $30 got you all the way to $90. But did that come with the 2 characters, or were those free? Borderlands 2, did they charge for extra Vault Hunters? Gage was $10 and Krieg was $10. So now we're at $110 for Borderlands 2. If you would have got the season pass, $90. If you got in Krieg and Gage, you're at $110. Neither of these characters were included in the season pass, according to Google. If Google is correct, you're at $110 for Borderlands 2 for basically everything. Guys, you got 10 minutes to extend the stream. We got to hit 50. I only ever do this every once in a while. Like, I'll let you guys extend the stream. If not, we'll go to Green Room. That's a great reason to be a paying member at VIP or at Member Plus. You don't get your day cut short on days like today. People love demonizing DLC. Anything to express the fact that they don't want to spend money. I don't blame them, but come on. The game is the game, and the DLC is the DLC. If the DLC is available at launch, that's a little weird. There's absolutely nothing weird about having it available for sale. It's not available to play, is it? The ending of the game is in the base 70. The 4 Headhunter DLC are extra smaller content, I think like seasonal content from Borderlands 2. The 130 version has the pass and the larger pass. It sounds like they're going to give you like an ultra bundle then. If you would have paid for Borderlands 2 at $60, Season Pass at $30, and then the 2 extra Vault Hunters, it would have been $110 for Borderlands 2 and all of its content. $110. No. They did the holiday things too, didn't they? Well, the Headhunter things were like $5, weren't they? This is saying $3. I feel like the Headhunter packs in BL2 were $5. I'm telling you, if you bought every single piece of Borderlands 2 back in the day, you'd have been very close to $130. They're just giving you, it sounds to me like they're giving you a all-in-one bundle instead of doing it one, piecemeal. Because Borderlands 2, you're at 110 and you haven't even bought the Headhunter packs. How many times did they do that? Didn't they do 3? They did a Christmas, a Thanksgiving, and a Halloween. That's 15. We're at 125. It's basically the same amount of money. The Super Deluxe Edition comes with 4 skins, 4 unique areas, featuring new missions and bosses, new cosmetics, gear, weapons, ornate packs, 4 skins, bodies, and heads, and a Vault Hunter pack. I'm sorry. I don't see... based on how BL2 was priced, I see no controversy here. I see no controversy. You would have easily landed at $125 for BL2 if you bought everything. $60 for the base game. Here, let's put it on screen. Let me put it on screen for you so we can get a visual of why this is not a big deal. All right? So, BL2, all right, was $60, okay? Season Pass was $30. Yep. Gage She was, I can't type. She was 10. Krieg was 10. You had Halloween, Headhunter, I believe, was 1. You had a Thanksgiving, which was 1, and then you had Christmas, which was the 5, right? So your total for all of that is 91, 110 plus 15. That's 125. There's no controversy here. It sounds to me like BL4, okay, all that and more total, you're spending 130. Because it sounds like you're getting even more from what you guys are typing in my chat. That the BL4, like the ultimate everything, all the stuff is 130, and it sounds like you're getting more than what you got in BL2, because you guys are talking about like new areas and stuff. Like you're talking about skins and stuff. I mean, back then when you bought that stuff, I think they threw in skins and all of that, but it sounds like it's almost the exact same, if not more, for 130 versus 125. It's just cut content that's resold to you. Presumption, you don't know that. There's no way to know it's cut content. Also, the value proposition has always been Borderlands 4 with 4 characters and a story. Here you go for 70. That's the value prop. You can't come back later and be like, oh, but you made extra content, DLC, and extra characters. I'm owed that. What? Why? Why are you owed that content? You're entitled to nothing. It's a value proposition. Take it or leave it. And they have propositioned Borderlands 4 since the very first trailer as a new Borderlands with 4 playable characters. They're not doing a rug pull. If they all of a sudden were like, oh, the launch version of Borderlands 4 only has 2 characters and the other 2 are hidden behind DLC that costs money, I'd be right there with you being like, you just did a rug pull. What are you talking about? Dead Space 3, Fire Emblem, Mass Effect 3 have DLC with the ending. There's more. I didn't want to write up games with supposed true ending. I mean, you're giving examples of games that do that. That doesn't prove that Borderlands is doing that, though. It's definitely more content, but people are arguing over the fact that the DLCs exist. They want to get it for free. Yeah, I don't give a frick about those people. I'm tired of listening to people like that. I'm just tired of it. A game company builds a full, complete product at launch, and they sell it, and then they also have extra content later if you want it. It's completely optional. You're not entitled to it. It's there if you want to buy it. Shut the frick up. Like, buy it or don't. You're like these anti-consumer consumers that are like, I'm a consumer that refuses to consume. It's like, why do you think you're owed anything? Like, they did the same thing with Spider-Man 1 when it had DLC. It was like they had a complete, very, very good-sized game at launch, and then they had planned DLC coming later. You are not entitled to that. They spent time making it. They spent production hours and man-hours making it. And if you want it, buy it. It's literally that simple. It's like going to the store, and you see the standard edition of a movie, and then you see the extended version. The extended version costs more money because you're getting more stuff. It's literally that simple. It's like buying a steak dinner and a really nice side and being like, I can't believe you want me to pay for dessert. What do you mean? You're not entitled to the extra stuff later just because you bought the main thing. It's idiotic. It's idiotic. Additive optional content has been around for a very long time. Borderlands has never done it in a way that makes me question them. They were very generous with the content in BL2. They were constantly doing, throwing in skins and doing events, and all the stuff was very fun. $5 for a holiday event, that was fun. It was a good time. It added new guns, a new place to go, some new skins for your character so you could kind of look like Halloween-esque or Thanksgiving or Christmas-esque. It was cool. Yeah, do all that, but just give it to me for free. Like, what? Why? Make content, make environments, make guns, and don't charge me for it. Man, shut the frick up. Seriously. Go bargain shop or something for games. Like, what are you doing? If you want to be frugal, go for it. If you want to wait for sales, go for it. But acting entitled to new content is stupid. It's absolutely stupid. This is a nothing burger if I've ever seen a nothing burger in my life. Now, if they had things on the website that were misleading, I agree with this. I don't think we should be calling collector's editions collector's edition. The use of the word edition sounds like I'm buying an edition of the game. Just call it a collector's merch box. Hey, we got this collector's merch box for all you collectors out there. All the merch for this game in a box. It's not the game. It's a collector's box. A collector's edition. The word edition sounds like I'm buying an edition of the game. You have the digital deluxe edition. You have the premium edition. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't know why they're doing that. You're asking for criticism. You're asking for confusion. I 100% agree with you guys on that one. We talked about that one last week. But you are not entitled to new content. I spent $70, and a year later, you came out with a new character or a new place, and I should just get that for free. Man, be quiet. You're not even a part of the conversation. You sound like an entitled baby. You're entitled to nothing. You bought the base game. The value proposition was there. The value transmission was there. You played it. You enjoyed it. You rolled credits on it. You're entitled to nothing after that. That's just the way of the world. That's just the way of the world. That's the way being a consumer works. 5 spot for PWH down. The steak analogy was spot on. I'm telling you, Lono's analogies of the day are a thing. Yeah, so I agree on collector's editions. You should not be able to call it a collector's edition if the game is not included, like, at all. I'm not talking about getting a digital code versus a physical disc. You can do that. But if I buy your collector's edition and it doesn't come with the game, you should call it something else. You should call it a collector's box, a collector's merch box or something. So it's crystal freaking clear. I'm buying a box of merch. I'm not buying an edition of the game. Because if you've got standard edition, digital deluxe edition, premium edition, and the collector's edition, you're all passively communicating something. That you're getting an edition of the game. A collector's loot box is more fitting. Yeah, that's perfect. Call it a collector's loot box. Perfect. You're working against a gamer colloquialism, that's been in place for 20-something years now. A collector's edition is the game with a bunch of cool stuff. And you're working against that baked-in expectation. If you're going to work against that, don't be stupid. You should know that people are going to get confused and upset and be like, wait, I thought I was buying the game. No, you're buying a collector's box. Then frickin' call it that. They fix it within hours. The Echo 4 bundle was mislabeled as a collector's edition. This has been corrected. The Borderlands 4 Echo 4 bundle features exclusive merch. Okay, so yeah, there you go. They learned a valuable lesson. You don't want to call it a collector's edition if it doesn't include a game. They address it day of. Okay, that's been rectified. The other topic that just came up, this right here is just a nothing burger. Borderlands 2, way back when it came out, by the way. So this $125 for everything that came with Borderlands 2, right? Let's just color code this. There's your Borderlands 2. There's your Borderlands 4. Okay, this right here, this is arguably more expensive back then. That's a long time ago. That was before I even had my kids. When did Borderlands 2 come out? $125 back then was more expensive than $130 today. $130 today for literally everything? I mean, come on. What are we even talking about? Like, do you mean to tell me that the developers made a bunch of extra content and extra Vault Hunters and things for me to do post-launch? I can't believe they're charging money for that. I can't believe this is still a conversation. 2012. Yeah, 13 years ago. 13 years ago. $125 to buy literally everything that ever came out for Borderlands 2. And now they're just saying you can buy all that up front. I mean, come on now, boys. Come on now. It's a stupid conversation propagated by stupid people. Okay? That's the facts. I'm sorry. This nuance will get lost. This nuance will get lost. It most certainly will. Corporate shill Lono, that label will get thrown around because I'm like, this is a nothing burger. I mean, I definitely agree and sided with the community on the collector's edition. I hotly argued that last week. I was like, you should not be calling something a collector's. The use of the word edition is significant. I said, but in this subject here, where there's all this extra additive content, you're not entitled to that. You are not entitled to that at all. So, no, it's fine, Citizen JV. I mean, if people are bringing it up, let them bring it up. I'm going to answer Khaled's question, and we're going to the green room. You guys did not extend, and that's totally fine. We're gonna take advantage of that time to plan and get more ready for tomorrow. I'm not familiar with Kojima's style of creation video games. Narrative always tends to be weird and hard to understand, and gameplay is slow. Why he has this huge rep in the industry? He's pivotal. He's pivotal. Metal Gear is a pivotal game. It's like Cliffy B was considered pivotal for a while because Gears was considered, kind of a pivotal and transformational game. So, Kojima has that status. There are games that they're viewed in that way. They're viewed in a higher level, and Metal Gear is one of them. Thank you for that $5 super chat, P-Dub H-Town, by the way, with the steak analogy. I think I read that, though. Oh, there was also the Moxie Valentine. I'm missing some. You're right. Why is Chrome freezing over here? Chrome does the same thing on my streaming rig. I don't think it likes. I'm using an extension for yeah, my whole computer is fine. It's just Chrome that's frozen. It doesn't. There's an extension I use with Google Docs. It does not like. Okay, so there was also a Valentine one. You're right. So there was a Valentine one that was 5. What was the other one? There was one with Hammerlock, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the Bloody Harvest. Okay, so I left out the Valentine one. Oh, looky what we have here. We have ourselves a perfect match. We literally have ourselves a perfect match. $130 for everything in BL2, $130 for everything in BL4. Everybody can just shut the frick up about this. This is stupid. If a company makes extra content, you're not entitled to it. End of story. I'm sorry. End of story. When somebody's like, yeah, but they made extra content or extra characters and I should just get that, I just want to say, be quiet. The adults are talking. That's what I want to say. Just stop. Just stop it. Oh, green room. Yeah, Death Stranding 2 is pretty locked in at a 90. It's almost like game pricing hasn't changed that much. I mean, and again, Randy Pitchford stepped in it. He stepped in it with his real fans remark. He really did. If he wouldn't have said that, everybody basically now is like, well, I was angry at him, and now I kind of can't be, so I want to maintain my anger, so the DLC and the characters are a cash grab. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Oh, okay. Whatever you say, buckaroo. All right, I'm going to switch purple to sub only. And I'm going to put a green room link in chat. This is a great reason to become a member to this channel. Hit the join button and pick Member Plus. Your day doesn't end here. And I know you guys are loopholing by watching on purple, and that's fine. Eventually, you will not be able to do that. You will need to be a paying subscriber to watch on purple as well. This is extra additive content, which, like we just said, it's not free. Anyway, so click the link in chat. We're going to go to Green Room. Thank you so much for being a member of the channel. If you're watching, this is a segment called Green Room. This is an extra segment. It's an end-of-the-day thing where we plan the next day's shows. You got to be at a Member Plus or a VIP. Some days we're in the live stream for 3 to 4 hours. Some days we're in the live stream for 2 to 3, and you guys end up getting a little bit more here in Green Room. That's a great perk and a great reason to be a direct supporter of the content. So get out of the gifted pool, upgrade to Member Plus. For $6 a month, you get all this extra content. I'm going to end the previous stream and bring folks over, and then I will change